I entered a business marriage with the crown prince of Beijing's elite circle, but he fell in love with a poor college student, willing to break ties with his family just to be with her. I advised the crown prince that he could first marry to gain control of the company and then divorce. Unexpectedly, upon learning this news, the college student left a suicide note and jumped to her death. The crown prince grew to despise me intensely for this. After marrying me, he subjected me to daily humiliation until I was ultimately tortured to death in the basement. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of my engagement with Su Tingshan. I didn't stop him this time, but instead chose to support him. Go bravely pursue your love. Happily holding the female college student's hand, he stepped onto the stage and excitedly announced breaking off our engagement to marry her. In his moment of triumph, he completely failed to notice the way my father and his grandfather were looking at him, their gazes as cold as death. His stepmother laughed so hard she was shaking like a flower in the wind. 1. Today is the day of my business marriage alliance with Su Tingshan, $1 million wedding with a seaside banquet, romantic and beautiful. He's the crown prince of the Beijing elite circle, and I'm the little princess of the same circle. Both families are immensely wealthy with deep connections. A union of titans, and all the top figures in the circle have attended. We had already privately agreed to a 3-year contractual marriage, with divorce upon expiration. Just a moment ago, he bent down gently to adjust my wedding dress, then knelt on one knee to profess his love with deep affection. Her.Then, you're not just my destined partner, but also my confidant and benefactor in career. No matter what the future holds, I will keep my promise to cherish you forever. I deserve his words. When the Su family was on the brink of collapse during the financial crisis, it was I who showed him the way forward, and my investment that helped them overcome the crisis. For women navigating the business world, love is merely a pastime for us, not a necessity. It's the expansion of our career territories that truly excites and delights us. Yet the next moment, he killed me over a poor female student he'd known for less than 3 years. And swallowed up the business empire I'd built with my own hands. I could overlook him killing me for a woman, but I absolutely cannot forgive him for using dishonorable means to swallow up my conglomerate. You can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. A worthless scum like him isn't even fit to polish my shoes in this lifetime. Must die. Before death, he must repay tenfold for the sins committed in his past life. 2. This time, when Su Tingshan knelt on one knee to confess his love, the impoverished student appeared again in her cheap wedding dress. A rather plain face and a malnourished figure instantly captured Su Tingshan's full attention. Tingshan, I know I'm not beautiful and my family background isn't illustrious, but I have a heart full of love for you. Will you marry me? The impoverished student's eyes were brimming with tears, her makeup smudged, looking not only unattractive but somewhat ridiculous. The guests below the stage began whispering among themselves. Su Tingshan's eyes instantly turned red, moved to the point of welling up with tears. In my past life, I stopped him because I knew how hard his journey had been, aware that his family included an unfathomably powerful elder brother and a much beloved younger brother, leaving him in an extremely awkward position. That's why I advised him, let's finish the wedding ceremony first, then I'll go with you afterward to explain, otherwise, you won't be able to justify it to your family. For the sake of power and status, he chose to listen to me, but in the end, he blamed all the responsibility on me. The more incompetent a man is, the more he likes to shift blame. This time I smiled slightly. Go bravely pursue your love, Su Tingshan said emotionally. Her.Then, thank you. After speaking, he jumped off the stage and embraced the financially struggling student, sharing a passionate kiss before everyone. The banquet hall divided into 2 distinct groups, one being the still innocent children who cheered and applauded this courageous scene. Then there are the real power-holding bosses like his grandfather and my father, whose faces turned utterly grim. If they had juniors who pulled such outrageous stunts on the day of an arranged marriage, they'd have the urge to beat them to death on the spot. Of course, there's also Su Tingshan's stepmother, laughing so wildly without restraint. Clearly someone about to reap the benefits. After the passionate kiss, Su Tingshan seemed infected by the fervent atmosphere around them and led the scholarship student onto the stage, holding the microphone and announcing loudly, I now officially declare the cancellation of my wedding with Song Her.Then, and will hold the wedding with my true love, Zhou Qianqian. After speaking, he knelt on one knee, holding a 6-carat wedding ring. His voice choked with emotion. Qianqian, how could we let a girl do the proposing? Zhou Qianqian, I love you, will you marry me? I swear I'll never let you suffer or cry again. I'll make sure you never regret today's courage for the rest of your life." The impoverished student couldn't wait to put on the ring, shouting excitedly, "I do." Zhou Qianqian agrees to marry Su Tingshan. Then the couple eagerly embraced each other again, sharing a passionate kiss. Su Tingshan's grandfather was so furious he stormed onto the stage with his cane to beat Su Tingshan, cursing, "You disgrace, utterly shameless rascal." Dad was so furious he stormed onto the stage to punch him, but I just winked at the guy and casually fingered my $6 million pink diamond necklace. His brow furrowed briefly before relaxing, then he gave me a slight nod. I smiled in satisfaction. Having learned the ropes of business from my father since childhood, R was beyond words. Even if Su Tingshan doesn't call off the engagement, I'll find a way to end it myself. He won't get to profit a single cent by writing on my name, but since he was the one who called off the engagement, it's only natural I should get some benefits. 3. After Su Tingshan and Zhou Qianqian finished their passionate kiss, they signaled the MC to continue the ceremony. "All present here are my uncles and elders. Please continue to witness Qianqian and I's wedding ceremony. I paid for half this wedding, and half the guests came because of me. He sure knows how to claim others' credit as his own." I nodded slightly at my father, who immediately roared angrily, "Su Tingshan, today is supposed to be your wedding day with my precious daughter. You call off the engagement at the last minute and can't wait to marry another woman. Are you taking advantage of my daughter's gentle nature? Or do you think our Song family has no one to stand up for her?" A flash of surprise crossed Su Tingshan's eyes as he realized that while I had agreed, my family certainly hadn't. He immediately turned to me, "Her.Then, you." I casually removed the bothersome veil and threw it on the ground, then bent down to tear the long skirt into a short one. Finally feeling completely relaxed, said with graceful composure, "Su Tingshan, pursuing love isn't wrong, but why didn't you pursue it earlier? How much effort has been poured into this wedding by so many people? The uncles, aunts, and elders present here have all taken time out of their busy schedules to attend. How can you be so willful and let everyone down? I wish you and Miss Zhou Qianqian a happy union lasting 100 years, with children coming soon. However, the wedding cost 20 million. Please remember to transfer it to my company's account." Su Tingshan quickly nodded. "Okay, no problem." The father below added, "You need to return the 10% shares our family gave you during the engagement, and terminate the contracts for several projects that were meant to facilitate the marriage. The 2.3 billion villa complex we jointly invested in will count as compensation for my daughter. Altogether it amounts to about 10 small targets, which can be considered sky-high compensation fees." Su Tingshan's face turned pale as he looked at me again. "Her.Then, this is too much. I've given you quite a bit too, shouldn't you return some?" Dad snorted coldly. "Too much? Is it too much that my daughter was publicly humiliated by you like this?" Then in the future, before the warning could be fully spoken, old Master Su immediately agreed, "This is only right. My grandson is useless. The original betrothal gifts shall count as compensation for the young lady. She suffered injustice today because I, as his grandfather, failed to teach him properly. This pretty much restored both my dignity and reputation. I can't go too far either, after all. Old Master Su has been quite good to me." I smiled faintly. "Grandpa, although Tingshan and I weren't meant to be, you'll always be my grandpa." Old Master Su looked at me with complex emotions. "Good child." After speaking, he turned and left with trembling steps. His departure took with him some of the Su family's guests. My father held my hand and turned to leave, taking all the guests of our Song family with him. What was once a lively wedding banquet now had more staff than remaining guests, all of whom were his company's employees. Su Tingshan is nothing without me. 4. At the wedding banquet entrance, my father and I invited all our Song family's guests and VIPs to dine at the private kitchen across the street. At the dinner table, I toasted each guest one by one, offering apologies and presenting them with expensive gifts. Everyone left with smiles on their faces. They even praised my father. "You've raised quite a daughter, so decisive and capable at such a young age. With both the means and the temperament, she'll likely surpass even your achievements someday." The Su family's child really doesn't know how to conduct themselves properly. It's hard to believe someone as formidable as old Master Su could have such a grandson. We've watched Her.Then grow up since she was a child. If you ever face any injustice in the future, your uncles will stand up for you. Today's battle was fought exceptionally well by me. giving me a perfectly justifiable reason to deal with the Su family in the future. Upon returning home, the compensation payment and transfer documents from the Su family had already been delivered. Old Master Su is indeed an efficient man. The reason I initially helped the Su family was entirely out of respect for him, a once dominant figure in the business world. It's a pity he was too busy with work to properly raise outstanding sons, and with his grandson still young. The family gradually declined. Mother said with heartache, "My dear Ran, are you feeling very sad?" Father looked at my money-grubbing expression and chuckled lightly. What's she sad about? She almost laughed out loud during dinner. The one who should be sad is Su Tingshan. Today's concessions cost him quite a fortune, and he's become the laughingstock of the circle again. His position as heir is looking rather shaky. I gave a thumbs up. Dad, you really get me. What's so great about men? Making money and building a career are far more important. Mother was amused by us. Seems I was worrying for nothing. Before I could even take action against Su Tingshan, his company's stocks began to plummet, and major newspapers were headlining the news. Probably not wanting to offend our Song family, the newspapers lavished praise on me, from my education and experience to my abilities, looks, and wealth, claiming I was top tier in everything, even in handling relationships with grace. As for Su Tingshan, he was portrayed as love-struck, foolish, and indecisive, with all his past failed decisions laid bare, emphasizing how ordinary he truly was. Even Zhou Qianqian's dirty laundry was aired out, with the language being particularly scathing. Nothing about her could even barely pass muster. The conclusion is that a wild boar can't appreciate fine grains. Su Tingshan knew he was out of his league with me, so he shamefully found someone of his own standing. This person must have worked in Hong Kong media before. They've got some real skills. Just as I was happily reading the newspaper, Su Tingshan called, his voice filled with exhaustion and anger. "Song Jiaoran, was it you who tampered with the newspaper and the stocks?" I sneered. "Su Tingshan, I'm still counting your compensation money right now. When would I have time to deal with you?" He angrily retorted, "If it's not you, then who could it be? I've already compensated you with so much money and projects. Even if the marriage matter wronged you, we're even now. Don't be insatiably greedy." I curled my lips in a cold smile. "Out of kindness for all that compensation money, let me remind you, your stepmother is no pushover." After saying that, I hung up. He used to be quite clever, but ever since falling in love, he's lost all sense of judgment and become particularly foolish. Emotions can really make people act foolish. That's a proven fact. 5. The stocks of Su Corporation stabilized quickly, and Su Tingshan even made the cover of the Economic Times, filled with praises for him. Wanted to clear the wild boar nickname he was given earlier, but it was too late. The moniker had already become popular in the circle. I even changed his contact name to Wild Boar. To have this matter resolved so swiftly and decisively, it must have been old Master Su's doing. It seems the old man hasn't given up on him yet. Indeed, Su Tingshan is fortunate. His mother was the daughter of old Master Su's comrade-in-arms. That's why old Master Su has been supporting him all along. But the Su family is large, and old Master Su is getting on in years. He won't last much longer. When he passes away, that will be the day I reap the Su group. At the new energy banquet, I encountered Su Tingshan and Zhou Cece. Su Tingshan had gained a few more wrinkles between his brows, and his once sharp eyes now appeared somewhat clouded. It seemed life in the Su family hadn't been kind to him lately. Zhou Cece wore a well-tailored Chanel gown, with shoulder-length wavy hair and exquisite makeup that enhanced her appearance considerably. At least she no longer looked like someone embarrassingly out of place. After just a glance, I paid them no further attention. Securing more projects was my real purpose for being here. Of course, there's one most important goal: to secure Su Tingshan's new energy vehicle project from his past life. It was precisely this project that earned him state support, ultimately allowing him to surpass others and become the industry leader. After successfully negotiating several warm-up projects, I went to the restroom to touch up my makeup, ready to secure the biggest deal. "Song Jiaoran, even if you're this beautiful, so what? Tingshan will never like you. Just give up already." Zhou Qianqian stood smugly behind me, watching as I applied lipstick, then sneered, "Brother Tingshan hates this color the most. Almost all the women here are wearing dresses, elegant and graceful, yet you deliberately stand out by wearing culottes. Do you think you're so special? Let me tell you, men love women in dresses the most, especially with lace. It's even more feminine." After speaking, she spun around as if to show off, the lace under her skirt catching the light even more conspicuously. After finishing my makeup, I slowly turned to look at her and smiled faintly. I dress beautifully to please myself, not to attract any man. What does it matter whether he likes my lipstick shade or not? I'm not a product to be picked over by anyone. Most women attending this banquet don't have the freedom to dress as they wish. But I'm different. I have the capability and means to choose clothing styles I genuinely like. I hope the dress you're wearing is one you love and actively chose, not one that was chosen for you. Female competition is my least favorite concept, and what I dislike even more is women competing for male attention. A woman's journey can be a career path, scientific research, education, or even the vast cosmos, but it should never be defined by a man, in my view. This kind of woman has too narrow a perspective. We're simply not from the same world, and it's not worth wasting words. 6. Just as I was enthusiastically discussing a project with a renewable energy tycoon, Su Tingshan dragged Zhou Qianqian, her eyes red from crying, to confront me. Song Jiaoran, did you bully Qianqian? Why was she crying after talking to you? I looked at the big shot apologetically. Sorry Mr. Liu, I seem to have a minor issue here. Could you wait for 3 minutes? The new energy tycoon smiled and nodded. No problem, take your time. Only then did I turn to Su Tingshan and say, did you ask Miss Zhou Qianqian for the reason? Accusing me right away would be quite impolite. Provoked by my words, Su Tingshan flew into a rage directly. I have no manners. Look who's talking, you're the one without manners. Yes, I admit you're strong in education, family background, and abilities, but that doesn't cover up the fact that you're selfish, cold, and look down on others. Character comes before work, and virtue comes before character. Mr. Liu, you'd better not cooperate with her. She has serious character flaws. His last words were spoken loudly, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. A glint of triumph flashed in Su Tingshan's eyes. He intended to muddy my partnership with Boss Liu using this dirty trick, then take his place. I merely smiled faintly, my gaze settling on Zhou Qianqian. Can you repeat what I just told you? Zhou Qianqian bit her lip and remained silent, so I asked again, did anyone in the restroom hear my conversation with this lady 10 minutes ago? I remember there seemed to be a beautiful lady in a purple dress also touching up her makeup nearby. The lady in the purple dress raised her hand excitedly and came forward, saying cheerfully, I heard it. It was the first time I've heard such morally upright words, and I remember it vividly. At that time, Miss Song was touching up her makeup when Miss Zhou went over to provoke her, saying that even though Miss Song is beautiful, Su Tingshan would never like her. He even said Mr. Su didn't like Miss Song's lipstick color, and that she wore culottes just to stand out and be unique, claiming men prefer women in lace dresses. Despite the harsh words, Miss Song showed remarkable composure and didn't get angry. Instead, she responded that women dress beautifully to please themselves, not as commodities for others' judgment. She added that most women wearing skirts here lacked clothing freedom, while she had the ability and means to achieve it. She also expressed hope that Miss Zhou wore skirts out of personal preference, not obligation. Her words instantly won thunderous applause from the audience. The little girl's face instantly turned red, and she said somewhat shyly, these are all Sister Song's words. Of course she phrased it more beautifully. I just expressed the meaning as I understood it. Sister Song, you're truly amazing. I want to become as outstanding as you in the future, so I won't be anyone's accessory. I smiled and said, I believe you'll surpass me. Keep it up. When young girls truly awaken to independent thinking, the world will become increasingly wonderful. The little girl happily skipped away, off to show off to her friends. 7. Trying to steal a chicken only to lose the rice. Su Tingshan's face burned crimson with shame as he immediately began shifting the blame onto Zhou Qianqian. Why didn't you explain clearly? I thought she was bullying you. Zhou Qianqian's tears fell in large drops as she sobbed softly. I'm sorry. Before she could finish speaking, Su Tingshan cut her off sharply. What else can you do besides cry? Stop crying. With a somewhat harsh tone and not the best attitude. Is this what he vowed a month ago? To love her for a lifetime, never letting her suffer or shed tears. A man's words aren't even trusted by dogs. After the humiliating scene, Su Tingshan couldn't bear to stay any longer and tried to leave with Zhou Qianqian. I called out to stop him. Su Tingshan, you forgot something, he asked in confusion. What's the matter, Mr. Liu smiled and said, you just slandered Miss Song. Shouldn't you apologize? Su Tingshan suppressed his anger and reluctantly said, "Sorry, I acted impulsively just now." I smiled slightly and said magnanimously, "It's alright, just be more careful next time." He couldn't stay another second and turned to leave, while Zhou Qianqian picked up her skirt and trotted after him. The people around burst into laughter. Today, Su Tingshan had once again become the laughingstock of their circle. Thanks to his divine assist, I smoothly secured Boss Lu's project and even reaped a batch of olive branches thrown by female heirs, with invitations to discuss tea and profits later. Who says women together can only talk about clothes, skirts, and cosmetics? As long as we are willing, our journey can also be the stars and the sea. Someone posted these banquet remarks online, and they instantly went viral. My company's account gained over 500,000 followers in a single day. And the stock price soared to unprecedented levels, rising every minute. In today's world where traffic is king, I caught this wave of immense fortune and started selling products through online channels. First day sales exceeded 100 million directly, becoming another legend. Just as I was busy setting up a new production line, I received another call from Su Tingshan. This time, the attitude was clearly much better. "Her.Then, I heard your livestream's first day sales exceeded 100 million. Congratulations." I chuckled lightly. The enthusiasm of netizens really took me by surprise. "But it's just the novelty of the first few days. Things will return to normal soon," he said with an apologetic smile. "But what you've earned these past few days already exceeds what small listed companies make in a year." Playing with the Rolex my father just rewarded me. I smiled brightly. "Not bad. What did you want to see me about?" He cleared his throat softly. "The fact that you can make money so smoothly from live streaming is partly thanks to me, right? I don't have any other demands. Just hand over the new energy vehicle project with Boss Lu to me." Ever since our engagement was called off, my family has been giving me a hard time. I originally wanted to take on this project to prove myself and make them see me in a new light, but you snatched it away again. Now, I'm struggling at home. I scoffed. "So you're saying I should thank you for smearing my reputation at the banquet, is that it?" He choked up. "Why are you being so harsh now? Didn't we used to exchange projects commercially before?" I shot back. "You said it yourself, that was before. And even then it was barely an equal exchange." "What? Are you trying to get something for nothing now?" he angrily retorted. "Do you have to be so calculative? You're not short of money. What's the problem with giving me the project? Besides, half the reason I'm in this difficult situation is because of you. You have to take responsibility." I was amused by this shameless remark. I knew he was incompetent, but I never expected him to be this brazen. "Su Tingshan, you're not cut out for the business world. You'd be better off playing house." Su Tingshan roared in fury. "Song Her.Then, don't think you're something special just because you've completed a few projects now. I'll make you regret this." I do regret it, not hanging up on him sooner. What a jinx. 8. Su Tingshan's current situation is even worse than he described. He had missed several important banquets, with his younger brother Su Lui attending instead. Though young, Su Lui was eloquent and quickly became familiar with everyone at the events. When others spoke ill of his elder brother, he was the quickest to chime in. I scoffed. The sight of these dogs biting each other was quite entertaining. Su Lui came to toast me, his expression respectful with a hint of flattery. "Sister Song, my mom said if I ever see you, I must try to please you." I chuckled lightly. "Why?" he eagerly replied. "My mom wants me to pursue you, saying if we get married, both the Song and Su families would fall into our hands. It's faster than winning the lottery." I curled my lips in a cold smile. "And what do you think about that?" A look of disdain flashed in his eyes. "My mother used to be a tea restaurant waitress. Her greatest skill was seducing men. She knew nothing else. If I really married you, forget about the Song family. Even the Su family would be handed to you on a platter. I know my own worth clearly enough. Elder sister Song, I know what you're trying to do. I can help you, but you'll have to pay me." His eyes gleamed unmistakably with a desire for money. This type of person knows exactly what they want and clearly understands the situation they're in. He's a clever man. I smiled and clinked glasses with him. "The price I pay will match the sincerity you show." His eyes lit up. "Deal." After finalizing the collaboration, he started taking pleasure in Su Tingshan and Zhou Qianqian's misfortune. "Sister Song, do you know how Zhou Qianqian entered our family? She signed a prenuptial agreement. If they divorce, she won't get a single cent. My brother used to treat her decently, But after his career was suppressed by you and his projects were snatched away, he blamed everything on Zhou Qianqian. He often berated her, saying such awful things even a scumbag like me couldn't stand it. Once, when he was drunk, he even kicked her out. It was pouring rain outside, and no matter how much we urged Zhou Qianqian to come back in, she refused, until Grandpa forced my brother to call her inside. Only then did she dare to return. It was truly outrageous. I used to feel sorry for her, but later realized she was just reaping what she sowed. I smiled non-committally. Many women face this issue, yet they don't see it as a problem. The day will come when more and more women rise up, and they will finally understand that women are not men's appendages. That day is not too far away. 9. The moment the conceptual model of the new energy vehicle was unveiled, it shocked the entire automotive industry. Major business tycoons came knocking one after another, eager to invest. The company's stock has hit the upper limit for 7 consecutive days, with the government also joining the investment and international media outlets scrambling to report on it. For a time, our song group was the undisputed center of attention. Su Tingxian encountered continuous setbacks, with all the hard-won projects ending in losses, each one worse than the last. Instead of looking for internal reasons, that fool actually went to worship Buddha and hired a feng shui master. When Su Lui called me, he nearly laughed himself to tears. Sister Song, don't you think my brother is truly foolish? Between striving for progress and being attentive, he chose to burn incense. He even specifically had a monk check Zhou Cici's birth chart, asking if it clashed with his own. The feng shui master said the ancestral grave's location was problematic, so he told his grandfather they needed to move it, which gave Grandpa such high blood pressure he nearly ended up in the emergency room. I couldn't help laughing too. He was even more ridiculous than I'd imagined. Anyone with eyes could see there were internal issues, but his reputation has sunk so low that industry leaders won't work with him, and the elders around him have all lost hope, so no one's giving him guidance. He completely messed up a good hand of cards. After the playful banter, Sula finally got down to business. Sister Song, would you agree to trade 5% of Song Group's shares for my 20% stake in Su Corporation? I chuckled lightly. The price you're offering now seems a bit high. You're at a disadvantage here, he said proudly. It's worth it. This is the money I've saved for retirement. As long as you manage the Song Group for a day, I'm guaranteed steady returns. You have no idea how fiercely people are scrambling to buy your group's stocks out there. Prices change every minute, impossible to get any. The uncles in the circle all told me, follow you, and there's soup to drink. While this statement may be slightly exaggerated, it's not far from the truth. Since I took over the group, I shifted from my father's stability-focused approach to rapid expansion. The conservative faction on the board initially opposed me, thinking I was too radical. But now the conservatives think I'm being too cautious and that we could be even more aggressive. 10. A few days later, I received a short video from Su Lui. In the video, Su Tingxian was berating Zhou Qianqian. Ever since I got together with you, nothing has gone right for me. It must be because your horoscope clashes with mine. Let's get divorced. I'll give you a small house in the suburbs as compensation. Zhou Qianqian cried pitifully, kneeling on the ground. I don't want to divorce you. I love you. I'll do anything you ask, just don't divorce me, Su Tingxian said with disgust. Are you unhappy with the small house I'm offering? Take a look in the mirror and see what you're worth. If you were someone like Song Jiaran, I could give you billions. For someone like you, even a house worth a few $100,000 is too much. Zhou Qianqian shook her head desperately. I don't want your house, nor your money, I just want to be with you. When you proposed to me before, you said you'd be good to me for a lifetime. You can't break your promise. If I lose you, my life would be meaningless. I truly love you so much. Su Tingxian kicked her away and even tried to hit her. Old man Su appeared in a wheelchair, shouting angrily, you beast, stop right there. Cough. Then came the panicked voices of everyone. Old master. Then the video went black and stopped at this point. Soon after, I received a call from my father, telling me to go to the private hospital immediately. Old man Su was critically ill and kept murmuring my name. Although I had already seen Grandpa Su looking frail and haggard in the video, my heart still ached when I saw him lying weakly on the hospital bed. I grew up listening to his legendary stories, watching him build towering heights, only to see them crumble. Grandpa Su, with an oxygen tube in his nose, gently grasped my hand and spoke weakly. Child, Grandpa has a favor to ask of you. With a complicated expression, I said, "Grandpa, go ahead." Grandpa Sue gasped for breath for a long time before saying, "Help the Sue group, take a look." This was asking me to go easy on the Sue group. I reassured him, "Grandpa, only when a drop of water truly enters the sea will it never disappear." Grandpa Sue was stunned for a long moment before finally understanding, saying with a sense of loss, "This old man is indeed getting old, the lass is right." After saying these words, he slowly closed his eyes and passed away peacefully. Instantly, the hospital room was filled with kneeling filial descendants. Su Tingshan, now sober, had bloodshot eyes and was crying the most intensely. "Grandpa, please don't go, it's your grandson's unfilial fault." As soon as he finished speaking, Uncle Su stepped forward and kicked him to the ground, saying fiercely, "How dare you say that? If it weren't for you, Dad wouldn't have died so early. Grandpa always loved you the most since childhood and placed high hopes on you. You kept saying you would inherit the company, make Grandpa's business bigger and stronger, and even surpass him, but now, under your leadership, the group is deteriorating day by day, about to be delisted from the stock market, you bastard." While saying this, he started hitting him, even pulling out the belt from his waist and giving him a good beating. Except for Zhou Cece. Everyone else had a look of enjoying the show, thinking he deserved to be beaten to death. Su Lui even came up to me, gloating and said, "Sister Song, is it lively here? That time when my brother said he was breaking off the engagement with you, my dad got so drunk that night he almost beat him to death, calling him an idiot for spitting out the feast the heavens had served to his lips. He also said the Su family would never rise again, and once Grandpa passes, it'll be game over." 11. On the day of Grandpa Su's funeral, all the prominent figures from Beijing's elite circles attended, marking the final glory of the Su family. After the funeral, I prepared to leave with my parents. Su Tingshan stopped me. "Xiaoran, I have something to tell you." I nodded. "Say it here if you have something to say." He looked troubled. "Let's go aside, there are too many people here." I raised an eyebrow. "I'm in a hurry, if you won't talk, forget it." A flash of determination crossed his eyes as he immediately knelt down before all the mourners. Everyone turned to look in unison, their faces wearing mocking smirks and sneers. Once hailed as the crown prince of their social circle, the object of countless admirations, now his face was bruised, his expression haggard, with the nearly bankrupt Su group making him the laughingstock of the moment. "Xiaoran, breaking off our engagement back then was a moment of madness for me. I know I was wrong now. Please give me another chance." I glanced at the frail and pale Zhou Cece standing beside me. "What about her?" "Zhou Cece, you once said she was your true love, that you'd never let her down in this lifetime." A look of disgust flashed in Su Tingshan's eyes. "If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have ended up like this. I regret it every single day. The once white moonlight has now become a cinnabar mole." "Oh, wait, no, it's mosquito blood." I smiled faintly. "Sorry, I'm not a garbage recycling station. I don't take trash." Su Tingshan roared furiously. "Song Xiaoran, I've already knelt before you. What more do you want from me?" I leaned down and whispered in his ear, "I want you dead, but before that, I want you to endure torment neither human nor ghost could bear." After speaking, I turned and strode away, leaving him to his impotent rage behind me. It took me a week to acquire the former industry leader, Su Corporation, but I didn't dismantle or sell it. The structure remained unchanged. No projects or staff were cut, the only difference was that I became the boss. At the victory banquet, all the industry titans attended. Once they came for my parents, now they come for me. Perhaps I performed too exceptionally, or perhaps those executives discovered their daughters also had talent. Visibly, there are increasingly more female heirs now. The banquet no longer features uniform strapless mini dresses and high heels, but more women in sleek culottes. Now we too can hold champagne flutes while discussing multi-million-dollar projects with the men. Gave it my all and finally got the admission ticket. 12. After the Su group was acquired, Su Tingshan was also kicked out of the Su family, only receiving a small portion of Grandpa Su's inheritance. So he started his own business, dreaming of making a comeback and crushing me under his feet. Perhaps given some time, he might actually make progress, but how could I possibly let him live another peaceful day? Starting a business, discussing projects, failing, starting over, discussing projects again, failing again, the cycle repeated. His funds were long exhausted, and the loan shark's demands kept growing. He thought his family would help him repay, But only after losing a hand did he realize his fear and went back to beg his father to settle the debts. The outcome was that Sulu humiliated him mercilessly, so that beast Su Tingshan wanted to sell Zhou Sisi to pay off his debts. Zhou Sisi was completely disillusioned with him by then and came to find me. Song Xiaoran, please, save me. I don't want to be sold to that kind of place by him. I asked her, how do you want me to save you? Help pay off his debts, she said through gritted teeth. That beast deserves to die. I just beg you to give me a job, I'll do anything. That man wouldn't dare harass you. I nodded in satisfaction. Good, if she'd said to help pay the debts, I would have had security throw her out. Although Su Tingshan's reason for killing me in my past life was because of her, that was merely an excuse from a selfish and malicious man, nothing more than wanting women to hate each other and engage in petty competition, in this world where gender inequality has persisted for so long. Many women have faced son preference and discrimination from the moment they were born. To secure their privileges, they continuously seek to subjugate women. I am one of the lucky ones, but I hope more and more women will be as fortunate as I am in the future. She works extremely hard and is very diligent. While not exceptionally outstanding, she performs much better than the average man. Su Tingran came looking for Zhou Qianqian and even tried to harass her. She ended up splashing prepared coffee in his face. Watching him writhe in pain on the ground, she said with disgust, if you harass me again, I'll call the police, you disgusting piece of trash. The timid little woman who once stood meekly behind men has finally broken free from her shell, embracing a new life. 13. Su Tingshan, unable to repay his debts, had his kidney harvested and was then sent to work in a male brothel, beginning his life as a prostitute. What pervert wouldn't want a taste of the once proud and privileged elite? In the end, he was played to death, his face twisted in agony and horror. It said he kept screaming my name until his last breath, talking nonsense about rebirth and other mystical things. The Su family refused to accept his ashes. Zhou Qianqian went to collect them, then directly poured them into the sewage ditch. This counts as returning something to its rightful owner. That actually makes a lot of sense. She treated me to dinner at the revolving restaurant in the evening. It's very expensive here, costing her nearly half a month's salary. You know what, the first time I saw you, I was so jealous. How could there be such a beautiful and outstanding girl? The reason I cried at that banquet was because it was the first time someone told me those words, that women have the right to make their own choices. Although I have a younger brother at home and my parents don't particularly favor sons over daughters, they've taught me since childhood to do laundry and cook, to speak softly, not to be too opinionated, and not to steal the spotlight. Yet what they taught my brother was to aim for first place, to become stronger and more outstanding, not to be as unpromising as a woman, or else he'd be looked down upon. Today is the day of my business marriage with Su Tingshan. The wedding cost millions. With a seaside banquet, romantic and beautiful. Actually, if Su Tingshan hadn't married me at that wedding, I would have jumped into the river to kill myself. I even had the suicide note prepared. Do you think I'm foolish? But that's just how it is where I'm from. A woman must stay with the man she first gives herself to, otherwise she'll be looked down upon. No man would want me, and it would bring shame and disgrace to my parents. But now I understand that a woman is never a man's appendage. She can be herself, have her own career, and even be stronger than men. When my parents found out I now earned such a high salary and work for a listed company, they walk with their heads held high in the village, saying I'm amazing and their pride. Xiaoran, thank you for giving me a new life. I raised my glass and lightly clinked it with hers, smiling. You should thank yourself too, for choosing to save yourself. In this world that is unfair to women, please, time and again, rescue yourself from the depths of hardship. Story 2, in my past life, I always missed Gu Jinzhou with regret. It was not easy for us to get married after many twists and turns. On the wedding night, he said he was going to participate in foreign aid construction projects abroad. He left me behind and was gone for 10 years without any news. 10 years later, he came back with the woman he had liked since his youth, Shen Jixin. We didn't get the marriage certificate or consummate the marriage back then, so our marriage is not legal. I'm getting married, and it's inappropriate for you to stay in my house any longer. Only then did I realize that the regretful misses I thought were just his deliberate actions. He had a happy family reunion, was riding high on success, moved into a new house, and married a new bride. But what about me? People say the city is full of beautiful flowers like brocade. Yet I didn't come across spring when I arrived. Living again, I took the first step and left without saying goodbye on the wedding day. However, he completely broke down at the wedding without the bride. 1. Jianzhou, your little fiancé is here again to check up on you. She's so clingy, as if she's afraid that you, this phoenix, will fly away. Yeah, she might as well tie you to her waist. Don't talk nonsense. Look. The little girl's face is blushing. I suddenly raised my eyes and looked at the owner of that soft female voice. It was Yao Sivan. She had black hair, fair skin, and a slender figure. When she smiled, she was sweet and innocent. She was the recognized goddess of the Department of Architecture. She was also the woman that Gu Jianzhou never forgot and pursued throughout his life and his past life. At this moment, I suddenly realized, I was reborn. Reborn to the time before the wedding. When Gu Jianzhou took a marriage leave to come back and hold the wedding. And Yao Sivan was the sweetheart he brought back in his past life. At this time, she was smiling and looking at me. Are you looking for Jianzhou? He'll come downstairs soon. 2. I stood in the sunlight, lost in a daze. Gu Jianzhou had already walked over with a cold face. What are you doing here again? He walked through the crowd and stood in front of me. He grabbed my arm and pulled me to a small path on the side. I'm having a gathering with my classmates. Do you have to pester me? He pushed his glasses and looked at me with displeasure. Shen Jixin, there are only 5 days left until the wedding. Can you give me the last 5 days of freedom? The lush branches above cast large patches of shade. The sunlight filtered through the gaps in the shade, shimmering on his face like broken pieces of gold. But in his eyes when he looked at me, there was only the coldness like frost and snow. I looked at the man in front of me. The man I had loved for 18 years in my past life. Now he was in the prime of his life, elegant and handsome, but who could have imagined how cruel and cold-hearted this person was beneath that good-looking appearance? I withdrew my gaze, lowered my eyes, and smiled. Sorry, Gu Jianzhou, I won't bother you anymore. After saying that, I turned around and was about to leave, but Gu Jianzhou grabbed my arm again. What kind of temper are you throwing now? I've already agreed to marry you. What else are you dissatisfied with? I suddenly turned around and shook off his hand. Gu Jianzhou was a bit stunned, but soon the disgust in his eyes became even more pronounced. Shen Jixin, if you keep making trouble, we might as well cancel the wedding. 3. I took a deep breath. I swallowed all the unwillingness, grievances, hatred, and bitterness surging in my chest. I will return everything he did to me in my past life. Exactly as it was. So, when I spoke again, my tone had softened. When I looked at him, there was also a hint of grievance in my eyes. I'm not making trouble, I just have some things to ask for your opinion about the wedding, so that's why I came. Gu Jianzhou waved his hand to interrupt me before I could finish. I have no opinion, I've said it before, just do it according to your preferences. Okay, then I won't ask you about the following procedures. It seemed that because I was behaving very obediently, or perhaps because there was still a bit of guilt in his heart, Gu Jianzhou suddenly raised his hand and rubbed the top of my head. Alright, I'll come back early tonight to have dinner with you. I pretended to be happy. Okay, then I'll wait for you. Gu Jianzhou couldn't help but smile, but in an instant, he frowned and suppressed his smile. I pretended not to notice and left happily. I walked a long way. Then I slowly squatted down under the shade of the trees and let my tears flow freely. 4. During dinner, Gu Jianzhou came back, but he wasn't alone. He brought Yao Sivan with him. In his past life, he had always hidden his feelings, and I knew nothing about his liking for Yao Sivan. In this life, before marrying me, he couldn't help but show his eagerness. Yao Sivan greeted everyone in the Gu family with a sweet smile. She also gave each of them exquisitely packaged gifts. Yao Sivan was beautiful, elegant, and dignified, standing beside Gu Jianzhou, who was tall, slender, and handsome. They were a perfect match, and I seemed to be an outsider who didn't fit in. Jixin, this is for you. I wish you and Jianzhou a happy wedding. Yao Sivan walked up to me and handed me the gift. I took it openly and thanked her. She seemed a bit surprised by my reaction, pursed her lips, and the smile in her eyes gradually faded. Jixin, go and prepare the meal. Aunt Gu naturally gave me the order, just like countless times before. I put the gift down and raised my finger wrapped in a band-aid. I said lightly, I accidentally cut my hand this morning, so I can't cook tonight. Gu Jianchuan rolled his eyes. You're so delicate, just because you cut your hand, you can't cook. Gu Jianxiu also chimed in. I think you just want to be lazy. Aunt Gu looked at me and smiled. Jixin is going to be a bride. Of course, a bride is delicate. I have to be the old woman to do it then. Yao Siban quickly followed to the kitchen, "Aunt, since Jishan's hand is injured, let me help you." "How can that be? You're a guest." "It's okay, Aunt, I'm just going to help out." Soon Yao Siban came out with the cooked dishes. "Jishan, come and take the dishes. I still need to help Aunt peel the scallions." She naturally asked me to help. I stood up and was just about to take the plate, but before my hand touched it, the plate flipped over directly. The scalding fish pieces spilled all over Yao Siban, especially on her bare calves, which were instantly scalded red. She let out a cry, squatted down and covered her calf, and tears filled her eyes. "Shin Jishan, did you do it on purpose?" Gu Jianzhou was furious and pushed me aside. 5. I stumbled a few steps and still fell to the ground. My palm happened to press on the sticky fish pieces, and the sharp fishbone pierced the skin. My forehead also hit the edge of the table heavily. Gu Jianzhou carefully helped Yao Siban up, then he coldly looked at me. "Hurry up and apologize to Siban." I endured the intense pain and stood up shakily. The blood from my palm flowed down and dripped onto my skirt, creating a shocking sight. Gu Jianzhou seemed to be stunned for a moment, but then the coldness gradually filled his eyes as he looked at me. "Jishan, apologize." "Jianzhou, it's okay. Jishan didn't mean not to take the plate on purpose." Yao Siban quickly tugged at his sleeve and softly tried to dissuade him. "Shin Jishan, didn't you hear what I said? I told you to apologize to Siban. What if I don't want to? Then I will cancel the wedding immediately." Gu Jianzhou stood up and looked down at me. "Shin Jishan, you know my temper. I never take back what I say." 6. Yao Siban stood behind him. When I looked at her, she secretly curled her lips into a smile. I knew she was provoking me. She didn't want me to apologize. She wanted the wedding to be cancelled. She wanted to marry Gu Jianzhou. She didn't want to marry someone she didn't love, and she had gone through many detours. She finally got her wish when she got married for the second time, but I didn't let her get what she wanted. "Okay, I'll apologize." I pursed my lips, with tears in my eyes. There was both grievance and fear on my face, and the moment I apologized, Gu Jianzhou clearly let out a sigh of relief, although soon, he turned cold again. "Don't let it happen again." He took the first aid kit that Gu Jinchuan brought. He glanced at me coldly. "The wedding is just a few days away, be more obedient." I lowered my head and wept silently. I looked timid and terrified. Gu Jianzhou carefully treated Yao Siban's injury and then said gently, "I'd better take you to the hospital to have a look, in case there's a scar left. Is it inconvenient? Jishan will be unhappy." "No, it was her who caused the trouble in the first place." After Gu Jianzhou finished speaking, he gave me a very cold look. "She caused the trouble, and I have to clean up the mess for her. What right does she have to be unhappy?" Gu Jianzhou didn't come back that night. A strange number sent me a few messages. "He's worried about my injury and afraid that I'll be in pain, so he's going to stay with me tonight. Go to bed early. Don't wait in vain." New bride, she was right. I really should go to bed early. There were still many things waiting for me to deal with, for example, those old houses and shops left by my parents, and the inheritance they left me. The houses should be handed over to a reliable real estate agent for sale, and after liquidating and organizing all the inheritance, I will take it all away. I won't leave a single cent for the Gu family. 7. The day before the wedding, I needed to try on the wedding dress again for the final adjustment. In my past life, Gu Jianzhou just briefly tried on the groom's suit and then left. This time, he actually didn't leave until I finished trying on the main wedding dress. He was still sitting on the sofa outside, and when I came out, there was clearly a flash of amazement in his eyes. "The waist circumference seems a bit big. It would be better to tighten it a little more for a better effect." After the stylist said softly, Gu Jianzhou also agreed. "Indeed, Jishan has a slender waist, let's tighten it a bit more." But I shook my head. "No need, this is more comfortable. Anyway, I won't wear it, so it doesn't matter if it's big or small. When you first came to our house as a child, you cried every day and every night." He stood up and walked over, hugging my waist from behind. "In the blink of an eye, you've grown into a beautiful young woman. Jishan, we're getting married." He lowered his head, his eyes filled with affection, and he wanted to kiss me, but I raised my hand to block him. "There are people here." I pretended to be shy, and Gu Jianzhou chuckled, looking very pleased. "Then we'll wait until the wedding night," he whispered in my ear, and I lowered my head and smiled ironically without a sound. The bride and groom can't meet on the night before the wedding. Since I didn't have a family of my own, I stayed in a hotel. When Gu Jianzhou sent me to the downstairs, his phone happened to ring. It should have been Yao Sivan who called. He seemed a bit distracted. I deliberately made a jealous and aggrieved expression. Gu Jianzhou raised his eyebrows. Alright, the wedding is tomorrow. Don't pull a long face at me because of trivial matters, then come to pick me up early tomorrow. I looked up at him, my eyes full of uneasiness and anticipation. Gu Jianzhou was clearly pleased. I'll come according to the auspicious time, don't worry. After saying that, he left in a hurry. I also immediately turned around and went upstairs. I checked the bank cards and passbooks one last time, and then made a few calls to the real estate agent. Then I took a shower and went to bed. I had no dreams that night. 8. Gu Jianzhou, however, had some trouble falling asleep. When it was almost dawn, he took a short nap, but he dreamed of Shen Jixian for no reason. In the dream, it was the scene of her trying on the wedding dress yesterday. Every frown, every smile, every move was very beautiful. During his negligence, Shen Jixian had quietly transformed into a beautiful girl. Her waist was very slender, her skin was very fair. Although she wasn't as tall as Yao Sivan, she was petite and cute. She wasn't as thin as Yao Sivan and still had the greenness and plumpness of a young girl. The scene in the dream was a bit improper. This seemed to be the first time that he had absurd desires for Shen Jixian, whom he had always disdained. When he was woken up by the phone call, Gu Jianzhou was somewhat inexplicably annoyed. He even wondered if he should postpone leaving for one more day. Should he wait until after the wedding night before leaving? At least, since she had loved him for so many years, it could be considered a meager return to her. But the voice on the phone made him instantly sober up. What did you say? The bride is missing. He suddenly stood up, and his fingers holding the phone were slightly trembling. This is impossible. Did you go to the wrong room? No, Mr. Gu, we didn't go to the wrong room. The front desk said that the room was checked out 2 hours ago. Miss Shen's phone number can't be reached either. The makeup artist was almost crying. Gu Jianzhou felt a deafening buzzing in his ears like the sound of war. It took him a while to find his voice. I'll call her. Please wait for a moment. But Shen Jixian's phone number couldn't be reached. Gu Jianzhou flipped through the contact list randomly, not knowing who to call. He didn't have any contact information of Shen Jixian's friends or relatives. He knew nothing about her. Over the years, she had been infatuated with him and followed in his footsteps. He had already been certain that he had her firmly in his grasp, so even at this moment, he still couldn't believe that Shen Jixian dared to leave him. Gu Jianzhou casually put on his clothes and drove to the hotel himself. On the way, he was so flustered that he even ran 2 red lights. When he was almost at the hotel, he called Shen Jixian again, but still couldn't get through. His heart sank uncontrollably, but the makeup artist's phone call came again. Mr. Gu, the bride has been found. It was a misunderstanding just now. Gu Jianzhou felt his heart settle down immediately. The thick fog pressing on his heart seemed to be suddenly pushed aside by a big hand. The car suddenly braked and stopped by the roadside. His voice was a bit trembling. Say that again, Mr. Gu, the bride has been found. She said she didn't sleep well last night and temporarily changed the room. Gu Jianzhou didn't really hear what else the makeup artist said. He leaned back in the car seat and suddenly smiled. He was really crazy. Shen Jixian loved him so much, loved him to the bone. How could she possibly run away from the wedding? What was even crazier was that he had almost believed it just now. It was really ridiculous and absurd. 9. Before the wedding, the Gu family had someone calculate the horoscopes of the two of them. Due to some taboos, the groom couldn't go to pick up the bride in person. When the wedding procession that picked up the bride returned to the wedding venue, Gu Jianzhou had already changed into a neatly ironed and expensive black suit and stood downstairs holding flowers. However, when the groomsmen got out of the car, their expressions were all different, and the originally scheduled bridesmaids didn't show up. The bride sat in the car, and her face was covered by a white veil. Only a vaguely beautiful side profile could be seen. Gu Jianzhou originally thought he wouldn't be very excited. After all, there was always a bit of reluctance in marrying Shen Jixian, but for some unknown reason, at the moment he saw the bride in the car, there was still an inexplicable ripple in his heart. Under that indescribable emotion, there seemed to be a hidden joy surging. He thought of Shen Jixian's beautiful and charming appearance when she tried on the wedding dress for the last time. He thought of her gentle and affectionate eyes looking at him. A soft and tender feeling seemed to quietly grow in his heart. In addition to his successful career, a woman's steadfast love for many years, it can also make a man feel extremely proud and satisfied. He held the bouquet of flowers and slowly walked up to the car. Several of the groomsmen were his old classmates and friends. At this time, they looked at him as if they wanted to say something but held back, and in the end, they didn't say anything. The car door opened, and Gu Jianzhou reached out his hand. Ji-Xian. He didn't know that when he pronounced her name, there was already a faint smile in his eyes. The fingers wrapped in white lace were soft and slender. They gently landed in his palm. Gu Jianzhou immediately held them, but the moment he held them, an unusual feeling suddenly rose in his heart. This didn't seem to be Shen Ji-Xian's hand. Her fingers were softer, and her hands were softer too. He could just hold them in his palm, and at this moment, the bride also turned around and got out of the car, through the white veil. She looked at Gu Jianzhou shyly and timidly, however. The moment their eyes met, Gu Jianzhou suddenly shook off the hand he was holding. The color seemed to completely drain from his face in an instant, and around them, there was a deathly silence. Yao Sivan was first stunned, then couldn't believe it. In the end, her eyes were already red with grievance and embarrassment. 10. The bouquet of flowers in Gu Jianzhou's hand fell. He turned around, grabbed someone at random, and asked in a hoarse voice, "What's going on? Where is Shen Ji-Xian? Didn't you go to the hotel to pick her up? Didn't you even notice that you picked up the wrong person? What are you doing?" His emotions suddenly got out of control, and his voice suddenly rose a notch. "We don't know either. When we went to pick up the bride, Sivan was the only one in the room. Yeah, we didn't see Shen Ji-Xian at all." Gu Jianzhou turned around and his gaze fixed on the makeup artist. "Didn't you say the bride was found? Is this what you call found, Mr. Gu?" "It's not my fault." The makeup artist was almost crying. She was just a worker. What could she do? If Miss Xiao hadn't said that she would take all the responsibility, she wouldn't have dared to tell such a lie at all. She just wanted to earn this money. "Jianzhou, it has nothing to do with her. It was my arrangement." Yao Sivan got out of the car and stood up straight with her back. Her eyes were very red, but her face was calm and composed. "Ji-Xian is missing, and the wedding is about to start. I didn't want you to be embarrassed, so I came up with such an idea. If you want to blame someone, blame me. If you want to scold someone, scold me. It has nothing to do with anyone else." When she said this, she suddenly lowered her head slightly. When the tears she had been holding back fell, Yao Sivan gave a sad smile again. "I like you so much that I did something stupid. Jianzhou, why don't we just let it be? Don't you have a crush on Sivan all the time? Besides, Sivan shares the same ideals and pursuits with you. Isn't she much better than your little child bride?" On such an important day as the wedding, she lost her temper and left just like that. "Do you really want to invite her back with a grand procession? Who knows how much trouble she might cause in the future? The auspicious time is coming soon. Jianzhou, make a decision quickly." Everyone chattered on. Yao Sivan gradually stopped sobbing, and there was a faint hope in her eyes as she looked at Gu Jianzhou. Gu Jianzhou stood still for a long time, then he slowly turned around and looked at everyone. Yao Sivan in the white wedding dress was very beautiful. He didn't deny that he and Yao Sivan did share the same ideals and pursuits. He had a crush on Yao Sivan during their days together, but he also always knew that the person he was going to marry was Shen Ji-Xian. He had already regarded her as his wife in his heart. Even though he had gradually come to think Shen Ji-Xian was no longer worthy of him, but he had never thought of breaking the marriage contract. Instead, he let her cling to him. But Gu Jianzhou never expected. He didn't have the determination to dump Shen Ji-Xian. He was going to fulfill the agreement and have a wedding with her, even though he had hidden from her the fact that he was going to participate in foreign aid construction abroad. But he had also decided that he would postpone his departure for a few days, to give her a perfect wedding and a wedding night. If he was lucky, she would have a child. From then on, she could also establish a firm foothold in the Gu family. He could be considered to have not betrayed the kindness of her family and her love for him over the years, but now, Shen Ji-Xian had disappeared on the eve of the wedding. 11. Gu Jianzhou couldn't figure it out. Where did she get the courage to act like this with him? Just because he had gotten a little closer to Yao Sivan, just because that day in the Gu family, he had protected the scalded Yao Sivan and blamed her. But where did Shen Ji-Xian get the confidence to act like this with him? Was she not afraid that this marriage would be completely cancelled? Or did she think that relying on the kindness of her parents, she could really do whatever she wanted and play with him at will? Gu Jianzhou had never been so angry and ill-mannered in his life. He even thought that maybe he should just let it be as his friends said, just marry Yao Sivan. But for some unknown reason, He looked at the beautiful and elegant Yao Sibon in front of him. The wedding dress she was wearing was the main wedding dress that Shin Jixian had chosen. She was a little taller than Shin Jixian, but she was thinner than her, therefore, the waist was looser, and the chest was even more empty. He couldn't help but think of Shin Jixian's appearance when she tried on the wedding dress yesterday. She stood in front of him, delicate and graceful, but with full curves. He was really amazed at that time. Shin Jixian's usual clothes were very ordinary, mostly loose and casual, so he didn't even know that she was so beautiful when dressed up. Jianzhou, seeing that he stood there without moving for a long time, Yao Sibon couldn't help but call out softly, but Gu Jianzhou suddenly raised his hand, tore off the groom's boutonniere on his chest, and casually threw it on the ground. Jixian is suddenly not feeling well, let's postpone the wedding to another day. After saying that, he didn't look at anyone, nor did he look at Yao Sibon again. He just turned around and left directly. Yao Sibon stood there in a daze. Gradually, her face turned red, everyone's eyes were on her face and body. Some felt sorry for her, some were indignant for her, but more people seemed to be waiting to see her make a fool of herself. Yao Sibon's whole body was shaking, and her fingertips were cold and trembling constantly. She had never experienced such humiliation in her life. Even though her family background was ordinary, she had relied on her own efforts to get into a university in Beijing all the way. As the belle of the Department of Architecture, she had always been the center of attention among the boys. Gu Jianzhou had also been very attentive to her on a daily basis, but it was such a man whom she had treated like a lapdog. He actually made her so embarrassed in full view of everyone. Why? Yao Sibon tore off the veil. When the tears burst out, she threw the veil hard on the ground. 12. It wasn't until I got on the plane to leave that I finally let out a sigh of relief. The plane soared into the high clouds. I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes gently. Everything that had been like a nightmare in my past life came to a brief end at this moment. I don't know what the future path will be like, but I only know one thing. After staying away from this ungrateful family, my future will only become brighter and brighter. When I was 5 years old, my parents died in an earthquake. At the most critical moment, they tried their best to push Gu Jianzhou out, and he managed to save his life. So, the Gu family naturally adopted me as a way to repay the favor. They also arranged a marriage between me and Gu Jianzhou to ensure that I would have someone to rely on for life. But after I grew up, this kindness changed its nature. As Gu Jianzhou's future became more promising, I, an orphan girl, became the lucky one who was seen as climbing up to the Gu family. Later, Gu Jianzhou went abroad for foreign aid construction and never sent any news again. I sold the house left to me by my parents to treat Gu Jianzhou's mother's illness. She was paralyzed for 5 years, and I took good care of her for 5 years. Later, Gu Jianzhou's younger brother and sister got married, had children. She said that an elder sister-in-law was like a mother. I willingly took out the inheritance left by my parents. When Gu Jianzhou got married, it was me who gave her the confidence with a dowry of 360,000 yuan. When she gave birth to a daughter, I gave her a red envelope of 60,000 yuan to show off. When she was beaten by her husband, I helped her seek justice, fought the divorce lawsuit, and personally picked her and the child up and brought them back to her parents' home. But when Gu Jianzhou finally wanted to drive me away, it was also her who said disdainfully, "We have raised you for more than 10 years. Our family has already repaid the kindness of your family. To repay the favor, we also sacrificed my elder brother's lifetime happiness. If you have a conscience, you should quickly make way for my sister-in-law." Later, when Gu Jianzhou came back with Yao Sibon, it was also her and her daughter who agreed to their marriage and happily accepted Yao Sibon. They also tacitly approved of Gu Jianzhou's decision to drive me away. In fact, Gu Jianzhou had been sending money back for 10 years. In fact, he and Yao Sibon had already lived together in a foreign country and had children. Everyone in the Gu family knew about it. Only I was kept in the dark and was squeezed dry of the last bit of my value of being used. In the end, I died miserably of a serious illness that couldn't be cured. Thinking of all this, I just feel it's extremely ridiculous. If my parents knew this in the afterlife, would they regret risking their lives to save Gu Jianzhou? I will never know the answer to this question, and I, who have lived 2 lifetimes, I no longer insist that good people will be rewarded. 13. Gu Jianzhou made countless phone calls but couldn't get through, and all the phone numbers of the people in the Gu family had also been blocked and deleted by Shin Jixian. At first, Mrs. Gu didn't take it seriously. Jianzhou, don't go looking for her. Which new bride dares to make such a big fuss and put on such a big show? She's just trying to act coy and make you give in. We won't do it. In her opinion, Shen Jixian, an orphan girl with no one to rely on. She was full of love for her son whom she regarded as her pride. And she simply couldn't really run far away. Now that she had made such a scene, it was just to let off some steam. How could she be willing to give up such a great marriage? Gu Jianzhou stood by the window but didn't move for a long time. He always had an ominous premonition. Shen Jixian wasn't making trouble with him, nor was she using retreat as a means of advance. She was really angry, really, and didn't want to marry him anymore. Yesterday, when she tried on the wedding dress, the kiss that was pushed away, last night, when he sent her back to the hotel, she was so obedient and sensible that she urged him to leave. She was no longer like before. At the slightest sign of trouble, she would be anxious and come to him crying and making a fuss. She was extremely vigilant towards every isomerism who appeared around him. She cared about him so much that it gradually made him feel bored. So he had applied for the foreign aid construction project abroad without telling her. He had repaid the kindness he owed, and he didn't owe her anything. He could leave with a clear conscience. He could pursue another kind of life that he wanted, but he never expected that the person who took the first step at the wedding, it would actually be Shen Jixian. Mom, what about my gold jewelry? Gu Jinxiu suddenly spoke up. You promised me that as soon as she entered the house, you would immediately ask her to buy me a whole set of gold jewelry. Now that she's run away and there's no trace of her, are my gold jewelry going to fly away too? Gu Jianzhou's heart suddenly moved. Shen Jixian's parents left her a considerable inheritance. In addition to the house and the shops, there was also a large amount of cash deposit. In fact, over the years, on the surface, the Gu family had been raising her, but in reality, Gu Jianzhou had also heard about how much money the Gu family had spent from the Shen family. Now that he couldn't get in touch with Shen Jixian, but as long as the things in her name were still there, that meant she didn't really want to leave. She was just throwing a tantrum to scare him. What are you in a hurry for? When she comes back and begs your brother to marry her, you can just ask her for whatever you want, right, Mrs. Gu said casually, but Gu Jinxiu still pouted. Who knows when she'll come back? What if she doesn't come back? How could that be? You know how much she likes your brother. That's true. If it weren't for the fact that she was sincere to my brother, I wouldn't have agreed to this marriage. Gu Jianzhou suddenly turned around and said, Mom, you go out immediately and ask someone to inquire. Inquire about what? Inquire about those properties in Jixian's name and see if they are still there. Mrs. Gu was immediately anxious. Jianzhou, what do you mean by that? If they are all still there, it means that Jixian is just throwing a tantrum at me this time. If they are all gone, Gu Jianzhou suddenly smiled self-deprecatingly and didn't continue, but Mrs. Gu immediately understood. She couldn't sit still any longer and rushed outside. I'll go and ask someone to inquire right away. Those houses of hers and those shops. It's not something that can be sold in a short time, brother. What exactly do you mean? Could it be that Shen Jixian really ran away from the wedding? Gu Jinxiu was immediately anxious. She had already boasted in front of a group of her cousins. Now that Shen Jixian had really run away from the wedding, wouldn't her jewelry be gone? Where would she put her face? Gu Jianzhou sneered and looked at her. Why are you in such a hurry now? Didn't you always dislike her and not want this sister-in-law? Who would turn down money? Yes, who would turn down money? So the Gu family looked down on Shen Jixian on one hand, but on the other hand, they clung to the marriage contract and refused to let go, and he himself, deep down in his heart, didn't he think the same way? Shen Jixian had money but had no one to rely on. All her relatives had died in the earthquake, and she was deeply in love with him. If he married her, her things would naturally become the Gu family's things, so he could apply for the foreign aid construction project abroad with peace of mind. Without any worries. Gu Jinxiu was despicable and selfish. Wasn't he also such a despicable person? Brother, she won't really leave, will she? Gu Jianzhou walked outside expressionlessly. I don't know, brother, if she really leaves, what should we do? Gu Jinxiu stamped her feet repeatedly. Mom said she wants to change to a villa, and the deposit has already been paid. Gu Jianzhou sneered again and again. Whoever wants to change the villa should pay for it, brother. Gu Jianzhou slammed the door and left, shutting out the ear-piercing cries behind him. I went to a southern city that I have always liked, when I was taking the college entrance examination, because Gu Jianzhou went to Beijing, I chased after him and went to Beijing as well, but in fact, the university I most desired to attend was not the one in Beijing. Now I have a lot of free time and am also financially independent. Naturally, I have the conditions to fulfill my dreams. After settling down, I directly bought a 2-bedroom apartment near that university. After taking a half-month break, I started preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination. I didn't get to study at this university as an undergraduate, but it's also good to study here for my postgraduate degree. In my past life, Gu Jianzhou achieved success and fame in his career. When he returned, his family was reunited. They moved into a new house, and he married a new bride. He was truly riding the crest of success. But what about me? People say that the city is full of beautiful flowers like brocade, yet I didn't come across spring when I arrived. The spring scenery of the whole city that I missed in my past life, I will make up for it myself in this life. In the second month after I settled down, Gu Jianzhou, who was originally supposed to go abroad for aid construction, suddenly showed up. At that time, the spring scenery was just right. I had just come out of the school library. I saw Gu Jianzhou standing downstairs at a glance. He had lost a lot of weight, but he was still outstanding among the bustling crowd. If it weren't for this, I wouldn't have poured all my love into him during my early teenage years when I first fell in love. But now, the person who could make my heart race and my face blush just by looking at each other can no longer stir up the slightest ripple in my calm heart. I held my books and continued walking forward. Gu Jianzhou called my name in a low voice. Zhixian, is there something? I looked at him with a calm gaze, just like looking at any passing stranger. I've been looking for you. What do you want from me? You are my fiancé. We have a marriage contract and we're engaged. It was just an engagement. We didn't get the marriage certificate, so it's not legal. Zhixian. Gu Jianzhou's white shirt was still spotlessly clean. The way he wore glasses was once my favorite. Now he stands in front of me, looking exactly as I once liked. But what's the point? After you left, I thought a lot. I really didn't act appropriately with Yao Sivan. I just admired some of her academic achievements and had no romantic feelings for her. I've already made it clear to Yao Sivan. She went abroad half a month ago and won't come back in the future. Zhixian, I promise that there won't be any similar things happening again. Come back with me. I haven't cancelled the wedding arrangements. As long as you come back. The wedding can be held at any time. Why do you think I'll go back with you? Is it because I used to like you a lot? I looked at him and smiled. Gu Jianzhou, haven't you figured it out yet? From the moment I left, you mean nothing to me anymore. Zhixian, I know the previous things made you sad, and I've reflected on them. Nothing happened between me and Yao Sivan, I can swear. Is that important? Gu Jianzhou, I don't care about you and Yao Sivan at all, because I don't like you anymore. This can't be true. We grew up together. Zhixian, you've liked me for so many years. Just because I've liked you for so many years doesn't stop you from having already applied for the foreign aid construction project abroad and planning to leave directly on the wedding day, does it? Gu Jianzhou's expression changed drastically. How do you know? I also know that you went with Yao Sivan. If nothing unexpected happens, you will start a new family in a foreign country, and I, who was left in the country by you, would have been kept in the dark all the time, fulfilling my filial duties for you, taking care of your family, emptying my family's savings, being squeezed dry of my value, and then being driven out of the house. Is that right? Gu Jianzhou, his face turned pale, and he looked at me in horror as if he were looking at a ghost, but I didn't let him off. I took a step forward slowly. If I'm not wrong, is your mother seriously ill? Gu Jianzhou suddenly took a step back. How do you know? Calculating the time, Gu Jianzhou's mother should have just been diagnosed with a serious illness. She was very concerned about face and kept it from her relatives and friends, so the news didn't spread. So, Gu Jianzhou, did you come to find me and ask me to go back because you really know you were wrong and want to make up for me? Or is it just to let me go back and be a servant to take care of your mother? And by the way, take out the inheritance I received to subsidize the bottomless pit of your family. How can you think of our Gu family like this? Gu Jianzhou's face turned pale and green. After all, she raised you for more than 10 years. Even if she has no merits, she has hard work, right? Shen Zhixian, the money that the Gu family has taken over the years is enough to repay this kindness of raising. Gu Jianzhou, don't come to find me again. I have no relationship with the Gu family anymore, and I have nothing to do with you either. After saying that, I walked past him towards the school gate. But Gu Jianzhou still didn't give up and pestered me again. Jixin. Calm down and think it over. Can you really let go of our feelings of so many years just like that? Yes, I let go of it a long time ago. Gu Jianzhou, you should let go of it as soon as possible too. Instead of pestering me here, it's better to find a way to earn more money. After all, there will be a lot of places where your family needs to spend money in the future. Jixin, do you really have to be so heartless? I found it a bit ridiculous, Gu Jianzhou. When your whole family conspired against me, why didn't you show the slightest bit of compassion? But Jixin, we didn't actually harm you. All of this is just your own speculation. So what? Even if it's just speculation, I'm just nipping this possibility in the bud. Isn't that okay, Jixin? After all, we know each other well. Can you guarantee that if you marry someone else in the future, they won't scheme against you? I laughed bitterly. Do I only have the option of getting married? 15. Gu Jianzhou stayed in this city for a week. Later, I called the police, and then he left dejectedly. It seemed that he knew I was determined not to turn back. After he left, he didn't pester me anymore. When I successfully passed the postgraduate entrance examination, my classmates from my hometown privately contacted me. They said that the Gu family's reputation was now in tatters, and they were almost unable to get by. Gradually, more and more people who knew the truth began to reveal that their family was ungrateful, heartless, and had bullied the only daughter of their benefactor. So, Mrs. Gu got her comeuppance and was bedridden. Gu Jingchuan was idle outside, caused a lot of trouble, and was in prison for a few months. And Gu Jinshou didn't get into university and had a gangster boyfriend, because she didn't want to take care of her mother. She simply moved to her boyfriend's house. The entire Gu family could only be supported by Gu Jinzhou alone. The huge medical expenses, plus the liquidated damages for the villa that Mrs. Gu had reserved before, emptied Gu Jinzhou's personal savings. He's really in a bad situation now. His former classmates and friends don't associate with him anymore. After hearing this, I just laughed it off. Without me, the big blood bag for their family to suck on. Their current life is really difficult, but what does all this have to do with me? I have a house, a car, and a substantial savings, and I can continue to enjoy my carefree student days. Maybe I will meet someone I like in the future, maybe not. It's also good to live alone. The filthy quagmire of the Gu family can no longer disgust me in the slightest. Later, I heard that Gu Jinzhou left the Gu family behind and got back together with Yao Sivan. He even settled down in Shanghai with Yao Sivan. Yao Sivan gave birth to a son for him, and their life seemed to be going quite well. But after a few years, Gu Jinzhou slunk back from Shanghai alone. By then, the Gu family had sold everything they could sell. There was only a shabby rented house left. Mrs. Gu didn't receive treatment and careful care and died last year. Gu Jingchuan went to Myanmar to engage in telecom fraud, and his life and death are unknown. Gu Jinshou got married early and had 3 children. She was beaten by her husband from time to time. Gu Jianzhou lived alone in the shabby rented house and drank heavily every day. The son born to Yao Sivan wasn't his. Back then, she was with him just to find a cheap father for her child. I was reborn. As soon as Yao Sivan got back together with her child's biological father, she dumped Gu Jianzhou. When I went back to my hometown to offer sacrifices for my parents' anniversary, I saw him once. Although he was only in his early 30s, most of his hair had turned white. He reeked of alcohol and sat on the street in a daze. Passers-by looked at him with disgust on their faces, who could tell that he was the once glorious Gu Jinzhou. I'm not overly compassionate and don't feel sorry for him. However, I still feel a bit sad. In fact, when we were all children, Gu Jinzhou was very good to me, but later, we all grew up, and we all changed. When I walked past him, he seemed to recognize me and stood up excitedly, but then he suddenly turned around and covered his face tightly. I just pretended not to see him or recognize him and kept walking forward without stopping. Another spring has come, another year with flowers like brocade. I won't look back, and I won't forgive. I will just keep walking forever and ever in the spring that belongs to Shen Jixian. Story 2. Everyone knows that Chen Yuechuan has an inseparable sister, Chen Miu. Though not related by blood, they were closer than many real siblings. On the day of our wedding, Chen Miu did everything she could to stop it, claiming that only one of us could live. Chen Yuechuan didn't care. He locked her at home and insisted on going through with the wedding. It wasn't until she cut her wrists and bled to death that he finally panicked. Since then, he retreated to the mountains, living by Chen Miu's grave for a lifetime. He abandoned our marital bond, demanding that I kneel before Chen Miu and repent in a low voice. Even my child was not spared. He watched indifferently as I miscarried and was rushed to the emergency room. He said, "An eye for an eye. This is just the beginning." Unwilling to endure further humiliation, I chose to jump from a building. Before dying, I saw Chen Yuechuan standing in the street, smiling with relief, murmuring, "Sister, the one who killed you has finally gotten her comeuppance." When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day of our wedding. This time, I would not choose him, brother. Please don't marry her. What are you talking about? Today is supposed to be a joyful day for me. Stop your nonsense or I'll lock you at home. Chen Yuechuan's angry roar woke me up, and I suddenly looked up. In the familiar environment, with the familiar voice, I looked down at my white wedding dress, feeling somewhat dazed. Yes, I had been reborn at the most unforgettable moment in my memory, in my previous life. I was ecstatic, unable to contain my excitement about marrying the love of my life, but now, facing it all over again, I was trembling with fear. I would never forget the indifference in Chen Yuechuan's eyes as he looked at me, nor the uncontrollable joy he showed just before I died. Now it seems, he had not fully chosen me. While blaming Chen Miu, there was also pain and struggle in his eyes. Perhaps even he hadn't realized. His relationship with Chen Miu had crossed the boundaries of ordinary siblings, gradually succumbing to affection and tenderness, until Chen Miu's suicide made him fully aware, and he shifted all the blame onto me. While he comfortably basked in the sympathy of others, he loudly condemned me to the world, blaming me for Chen Miu's death. If it weren't for me, why would Chen Miu have died? Why would he end up guarding her grave for life? I was pelted with rotten eggs and spoiled vegetables by people who detested me, and even verbally abused. I took a deep breath, suppressing the complex emotions inside. This time, I would not stand for it. Chen Yuechuan, if you really intend to marry, then don't expect to see me again. A piercing scream pulled my thoughts from the past. I got up, opened the door, and saw Chen Yuechuan coming towards me, angry. I quickly grabbed him. Your sister is still young, don't be harsh with her. Chen Yuechuan was about to complain to me when his expression suddenly froze, staring at me, unable to react. It was well known that I disliked Chen Miu, and he had even prepared how to appease me, but he never expected to hear such words from me. Immediately, his eyes filled with uncontrollable anger. But she spoke about you like that, about my future wife. How can I not care about this? I asked, shaking my head nonchalantly. She is your sister, after all. If things get too tense between you, how will you get along in the future? Seeing his furrowed brow, I shook my head with a smile, took his arm, and spoke gently. Don't worry, I'm not going to hold a grudge against her. We need to think of the bigger picture. She's your most important family member. Without her, the wedding wouldn't be complete. Do you want me to live with regret during the most important moment of my life? Hearing this, Chen Yuechuan's expression gradually softened, replaced by a look of emotion and relief. He smiled faintly, indulgently reaching out to stroke my head. Having you as my wife is the greatest fortune of my life. Chen Yuechuan's parents, standing nearby, nodded almost imperceptibly, very pleased with my response. In the distance, Chen Miu's hysterical screams continued. Chen Yuechuan quickly turned and walked towards her. I watched his departing figure until he crouched beside Chen Miu and affectionately embraced her. Chen Miu's expression shifted from anger to joy, and finally to intense pride. She glanced at me provocatively without leaving any traces. In a past life, I was unaware of the true nature of their relationship, assuming they were just unusually close siblings. Now, it was clear that their interactions were disturbingly abnormal at all times, but they didn't know, or even thought it was normal. Facing Chen Miu's gaze, I suddenly burst out laughing. This time, I won't stop you. I'm curious to see how things will unfold. I didn't know what the two whispered to each other in the distance before they walked over hand in hand. Chen Yuechuan's gaze flickered, his throat moved slightly, and he turned to look at me. Xin Zhuxin, Chen Miu mentioned she's never experienced being a bride, and since we're not in a hurry, why not let her take the bride's place today? As soon as he said this, the room fell silent. Everyone exchanged glances, their eyes filled with shock and disbelief. A brother marrying his sister, even if not related by blood, was scandalous. Moreover, how could such a significant matter as marriage be changed so casually? Chen's mother turned pale with anger, her body trembling as she pointed at Chen Yuechuan's face. You fool! Do you realize what you are saying? She's your sister. How can she possibly be your bride? After a brief silence, the crowd began to murmur amongst themselves in low tones. Chen's father's expression changed slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. Realizing his words were inappropriate, Chen Yuechuan spoke softly, "Shin Jushin, we have a long future ahead of us, and I believe you will understand." Chen Miu also nodded repeatedly. Sister Shin Jushin is so sensible, she will surely agree. Suddenly, I became the focal point of everyone's discussions. On what should have been the most important day of my life, an outsider was taking my groom. For a moment, countless curious eyes turned towards me. Inside, I felt calm, but outwardly, I had to put on a look of grievance. "Since you have already decided, of course, I choose to support you. The disgrace isn't mine to bear." In the Chen family, when Chen Yuechuan made a decision, no one could ever change it, nor would it be altered for anyone else. As soon as the words were spoken, a snicker suddenly echoed around the room. The sound wasn't loud, but it was strikingly conspicuous in the cramped space. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound only to see Chen Muhe nestled in Chen Yuechuan's arms, giggling. "You really think you have a say, whether you agree or not? You're not part of today's wedding," Chen Muhe said disdainfully, her eyes filled with scorn, not bothering to hide her disgust for me. I didn't appear the least bit humiliated and looked towards Chen Yuechuan, only to find him deliberately lowering his head and shifting his gaze away. "What are you looking at? If it wasn't for Brother Yuechuan's generosity, do you think you could be standing here?" Seeing Chen Yuechuan remain silent, Chen Muhe became more brazen, proudly lifting her chin. "Don't you get it? Brother Yuechuan loves me the most, you're just an interloper." Before I could respond, the crowd around us became agitated and began to point at Chen Muhe and voice their condemnation. How can someone speak so maliciously, such a lack of manners? Finally breaking his silence, Chen Yuechuan frowned slightly, his voice tinged with displeasure. "That's enough, there's a limit to throwing a tantrum." With just that sentence, I couldn't help but regard Chen Yuechuan more highly. With a few casual words, he managed to turn Chen Muhe's taunts into mere petulant complaints, thereby defusing the crowd's criticism. Upon hearing this, Chen Muhe stuck out her tongue and rubbed her head against Chen Yuechuan. "Brother Yuechuan, I'll listen to whatever you say." Looking at Mr. and Mrs. Chen, they seemed indifferent, as if the matter didn't concern them. I wasn't surprised at all. They hadn't liked me for a day or two. How could I not know what their attitude would be? Their initial attempt to intervene was merely for the sake of appearances. Somewhat anxiously, Chen Muhe tugged at Chen Yuechuan's sleeve. "Brother, shouldn't we hurry up? It wouldn't be good to miss the auspicious hour." Chen Yuechuan's gaze flickered and he glanced at me, seemingly seeking my opinion. I smiled lightly, my voice calm. "I have no objections, but just be careful. Some people may appear tender and gentle, but who knows how much deceit they hide. In the sunlight, the fox's tail will always show." I turned my gaze to Chen Muhe. "Isn't that right, little sister Chen Muhe?" Chen Muhe was momentarily stunned, then, seconds later, became furious, pointing at my face and shrieking, "You wretch, who are you calling a vixen?" "Enough," Chen Yuechuan sternly reprimanded, his face turning grave as he looked at Chen Muhe. "If you overstep again, don't blame me for not showing you any face." With tears welling up in her eyes, Chen Muhe reluctantly lowered her head, shaking Chen Yuechuan's arm. "I understand." At the same time, she cast a resentful glance at me, the anger in her eyes clearly visible. If looks could kill, I would have died many times over. I smiled faintly and walked away cleanly. To the onlookers, my departure seemed awkward and defeated, but little did they know, my body trembled with excitement as I took the first step towards a new life. As for Chen Yuechuan, let whoever wants him, have him. I went to my room to change my clothes. As I got up to leave, I inadvertently walked into a scene where a couple was intimately sharing a toast, their eyes brimming with deep affection as if only the two of them existed in that moment. I glanced at them briefly and then continued walking towards the exit. At that moment, Chen Yuechuan was affectionately cradling Chen Mia's head, catching a glimpse of my figure leaving. His eyebrows lifted in response. He quickly stepped down from the stage and grabbed my arm. "Where are you going?" I turned around calmly and replied, "I'm going home. There's nothing left for me here." Upon hearing this, Chen Yuechuan's expression showed a hint of guilt. He gently tapped my palm a few times. "Don't worry, I will make it up to you in the future." Before I could respond, a shadow suddenly rushed over, throwing itself into Chen Yuechuan's arms while forcefully pushing me. Behind me were steps about a meter high. Instantly, my world went dark as I felt dizzy and then fell hard onto the ground. Excruciating pain emanated from my abdomen, and I lay there crying out in agony. Chin Yuechuan's face turned pale as he pushed Chen Miu aside and rushed to help me up. Are you alright? Did you hurt yourself anywhere? As his familiar scent reached me, I felt nauseous. Pushing him away, I stood up shakily with a pale face, clutching my abdomen and forcing a smile. Go on with your wedding, don't worry about me. Xin Zhuxin, Chin Yuechuan spoke sternly, his gaze slightly displeased. I know you're blaming me in your heart, but now is not the time to be willful. I'm taking you to rest. I didn't say a word, just stared blankly at my belly. In my past life, I had experienced this persistent pain before, right before a miscarriage, and now, I was pregnant again. I had a premonition, this child might not survive. For some reason, I felt a sudden sense of relief. Better that the child never be born into such a cruel world than to suffer here. Indeed, this was the last thing I could do for him as a mother. From afar, Chen Miu's crying drew everyone's attention. Chin Yuechuan hesitated for a moment between me and Chen Miu, but eventually, he firmly walked over to Chen Miu. I let out a self-deprecating laugh, looking somewhat desolate. Even though I knew the outcome, I couldn't help but feel sad for myself. 5 years of love, yet I lost to an adopted daughter who appeared halfway through. How ridiculous. At that moment, Chen Miu was sitting on the ground, gently sobbing. Her moist eyes shimmered with tears, and her body trembled slightly. A sight that would make anyone feel pity. I didn't mean it, I just wanted to hear what they were talking about. She suddenly stood up and rushed over to Chen's parents. Mom, Dad, you know I had no ill intentions. Chen's parents looked at each other and nodded. Of course we believe you. As the adopted daughter of the Chen family, her lively and adorable personality was much loved by Chen's parents. Even though she was not their biological daughter, she was treated as such. Seeing this, Chen Miu bowed her head in feigned grievance, but her heart was bursting with joy. Casting a triumphant glance at me, I wasn't paying attention to what was happening there, nor did I have the heart to care. Hello, ambulance, I'm at the Jingren Hotel, please come over, I'm not feeling well. After the call, I finally breathed a sigh of relief and sat down by the roadside, looking towards the hotel. Chen's parents and Chin Yuechuan were all consoling Chen Miu, as if she was the real victim. Seeing this scene, I wasn't surprised, just stared blankly at the distant white sky. It felt good to breathe fresh air again. Lost in my thoughts, Chin Yuechuan came over again, his voice softer. Chen Miu told me, she didn't mean it, and she feels bad seeing you hurt, and besides, she's still young, don't be too hard on her. Hearing this, I almost laughed. Yes, she's a year younger than me, so she gets all the care and attention, and even when she makes mistakes, she doesn't have to take responsibility. Chin Yuechuan saw that I was silent and wanted to say something more, but suddenly someone shouted, Miss Chen Miu is feeling unwell, and he immediately turned his head and rushed towards her. Just then, the ambulance arrived. My eyes brightened, and I staggered towards the ambulance. The pain in my lower abdomen was getting worse, and I didn't know how much longer I could endure. Who called the ambulance? The nurse stepped out of the vehicle. Looking around, I spoke out loud, it's me, I'm bleedy. Before I could finish, Mrs. Chen suddenly rushed over and forcefully pushed me aside, exclaiming, here, my daughter is in unbearable pain, quickly take us to the hospital. Already weak, my legs gave way, and I collapsed to the ground. Furious, I was about to retort when I saw Mrs. Chen looking at me sideways with a nonchalant expression. Why call an ambulance if you're fine? Such a big fuss over nothing, let's save it for Chen Miu. Chin Yuechuan, standing nearby, nodded in agreement. I see nothing serious with you, just go home and rest. I laughed out of sheer frustration, pointing at Chen Miu, who was feigning illness. Why should the ambulance I called be used for her? How dare you? Mrs. Chen's face darkened with anger, and she slapped me across the face. Who gave you the right to talk back to us? Caught off guard by the force, I stumbled backward, my head hitting the ground. Blood trickled from my forehead. Looking up at Chin Yuechuan, I realized he was silently helping Chen Miu into the ambulance. From beginning to end, his eyes were only on Chen Miu, not sparing me a glance. Despite being prepared, witnessing his heartlessness once more still made my heart ache. Haha, is this really the partner I chose to be with for life? I managed a wry smile, lying in the middle of the road, watching the ambulance drive away, my vision blurring. Vaguely, I heard someone nearby calling out anxiously. Someone come quick, this lady, she's lost a lot of blood. I wasn't sure how long I was unconscious. When I came to, a face was staring intently at me. Ah, I jumped, instinctively pulling back. That face, so familiar, Lu Huaiqiu. Once the most fervent admirer who had covered the sports field with roses to confess his love for me. Sadly, I had chosen Chen Yuechuan instead, and Lu faded from my memory, yet, here he was, unexpectedly before me. Don't move, you're still very weak. Lu Huaiqiu's eyes flashed with panic, quickly replaced by concern as he steadied my shoulders. How are you here? My surprise overshadowed the physical pain. In my memory, he had moved far away for work after graduation. It made no sense for him to be here. As he was about to speak, hurried footsteps sounded from behind. Is Shen Juxin here? It was Chen Yuechuan's voice, tinged with urgency. The door burst open, and seeing me, Chen Yuechuan's face lit up. Shen Juxin, you are really here. Lu Huaiqiu's expression turned cold. He stood up and without a word, punched Chen Yuechuan in the face. Bang! Caught off guard, Chen Yuechuan stumbled back out of the room. How dare you show your face here? I trusted you with Shen Juxin, and this is how you treat her, you beast. I'd be doing a public service by killing you today. Immediately, I heard Chen Yuechuan's furious roar from the hallway. Lu Huaiqiu, what the hell are you doing here? What business is it of yours? As her friend, it's my duty to stand up for her. I turned on my phone, only to find it flooded with advertisements, all about one thing, the Chen siblings. Chen Yuechuan and Chen Miu tied the knot. And it turns out they are not related by blood, a match made in heaven, a handsome man and a beautiful woman. Their wedding was a grand affair. I chuckled and turned off my phone, as expected, given how much Chen's parents disliked me. If it weren't for Chen Mia's unexpected suicide in my previous life, I would never have had the chance to be a bride. The noise of fighting outside grew louder. I tried to intervene, but was interrupted by a violent fit of coughing. Shen Juxin. Lu Huaiqiu was the first to hear me, rushing over and grabbing my hand. Are you alright? Soon after, Chen Miu came over in a disheveled state, his gaze fixed on Lu Huaiqiu's firm grip on my hand, his face darkening instantly. Let go of her, she's my wife, he demanded. Lu Huaiqiu, chin up, unafraid of his glare, retorted, you don't deserve to be her husband. Hearing this, Chen Yuechuan scoffed, looking at me. Tell our old friend here, who is your husband? With a steady gaze, I responded. I have no husband. At this, Chen Yuechuan's smile faltered, his eyebrows knitting together. We've had our wedding, all that's left is the marriage certificate. Could there be anyone else but me? Are you sure? I suddenly raised my voice. Your bride, is she me? Chen Yuechuan's expression turned ugly. He stammered for a while. I didn't know about these things at first. My intention was just to make Chen Miu happy. He held my hand, earnestly saying, I can give you everything you want. I lightly toyed with the pristine bedsheet, looking at him with a half-smile. Are you sure you can make Chen Miu give up everything for me? I clearly saw a moment of hesitation and evasion in Chen Yuechuan's eyes. This, after all, we just got married. If we declare now that everything was fake, it would cause significant damage to the Chen family's reputation, and with the recent hype over our wedding, the stocks have soared. Just get through this period, and the position of Mrs. Chen will still be yours. He continued his relentless babble, unaware of Lu Huaiqiu's increasingly darkening expression. Get the hell out, Lu Huaiqiu, eyes reddening, roared as he grabbed Chen Yuechuan's collar. After all is said and done, you still care about that little mistress of yours. To mess with Shen Juxin, you'll have to step over my dead body. Chen Yuechuan's face darkened. He grabbed Lu Huaiqiu by the throat. A hint of disdain flashing in his eyes. You were never my equal, and you still aren't. I cooled down, shouting, enough, let go. Both men obediently released their grips. Suddenly, Chen Yuechuan received a call from Chen Miu. Hesitating for a moment, he chose to answer it on the spot. Immediately, a whiny, saccharine voice echoed through the room. Brother Chen Yuechuan, where are you? I feel so miserable. Chen Yuechuan's face softened. He cooed, behave, sister, I'll get you some food. I'll be right back. Lu Huaiqiu looked at Chen Yuechuan with a mocking, disdainful glance, scoffing, go attend to your little mistress before she starts crying. Chen Yuechuan's expression chilled. That's my sister. Watch your words or I won't be polite. With that, he looked at me, walking backwards as he left. I'll be back soon. You rest well and think about what I said. Also, his gaze lingered on Lu Huaiqiu for a second, his voice cold. Remember whose child you are carrying. I don't want to see irrelevant people around here anymore. Hearing his undisguised threat, my expression didn't change much. After all, the child was no longer there. Those words were pointless. After Chen Yuechuan left, Lu Huaiqiu remained silent for a long time before he slowly spoke. It seems he doesn't know about your miscarriage. I nodded slightly, looked up at him, and said, thank you for saving me. It's nothing, it's what I should do. Lu Huaiqiu seemed somewhat distracted as he responded, you seem like you have something to say. Not at all. Lu Huaiqiu quickly shook his head. Watching Lu Huaiqiu's demeanor, I suddenly found it somewhat amusing. Actually, you're really bad at hiding your feelings. I do have something I want to say. He glanced at me, but quickly averted his gaze when our eyes met. Chen Yuechuan treats you like that? Even bluntly saying he's just playing with you. You're such a good girl. How can you let someone like him tarnish you? He practically gritted his teeth as he spoke the last sentence. I looked up at him and said, so you're saying I should choose you, right? As soon as the words left my mouth, Lu Huaiqiu's face turned visibly red. Yes. He suddenly clenched his teeth, his expression resolute as he looked at me. If Chen Yuechuan were good to you, I'd accept my defeat gracefully, without regrets, but he doesn't see you at all, so. Can I have another chance to pursue you? Seeing his anxious and hopeful eyes, I was momentarily lost in thought. His love for me, I only realized its depth when I was on the brink of death. In a past life, I was cruelly forced to kneel at Chen Miu's grave. It was Lu Huaiqiu who forcefully pulled me away, ignoring the swirling rumors and slander. After my death, he inflicted a severe injury on Chen Yuechuan and finally committed suicide by cutting his wrists, dying beside me. I can never forget the look of despair in his eyes when he saw me die. At that thought, my heart ached, and I nodded heavily. Lu Huaiqiu suddenly clenched his hands tightly, his eyes reddening with emotion. He lunged forward, grabbing my hands again. What did you say? You agree? I smiled warmly and nodded again. Of course, this time, I choose you. From that day on, Lu Huaiqiu stayed by my side, taking great care of me. Chen Yuechuan, who always said he'd be back soon, was nowhere to be seen. I watched the busy figure beside me and felt a warmth in my heart. Unlike Chen Yuechuan, Lu Huaiqiu never just talked without action. He took care of everything himself, and even when he didn't understand something, he would humbly ask the nurses. Occasionally, I would tease him, saying he didn't act like a wealthy heir at all. More than once, I asked myself why I had originally chosen Chen Yuechuan over Lu Huaiqiu. Looking back, the brave decision I once made was terribly wrong. 3 days later, Lu Huaiqiu brought me news. Chen Miu was pregnant. Although the Chen family kept it under wraps, Lu Huaiqiu's resources still made it possible to find out. This damn beast. He already had you and still messed around everywhere, Lu Huaiqiu said angrily, pulling at his hair. I listened in silence, saying nothing. Honestly, I felt calmer than I expected. Perhaps, having been reborn, I had already seen the darkness and coldness in Chen Yuechuan's heart, so nothing he did could surprise me anymore. Still, I hadn't expected that they had been involved for quite some time already. What was I to him then, and why hold such a grand wedding to marry me? I couldn't quite understand and shook my head slightly, but saw Lu Huaiqiu sitting in the chair, visibly annoyed. I couldn't help but find it amusing and looked up at him. Why are you so angry? Lu Huaiqiu's face reddened. Because he disrespected you. I smiled, beckoned him with my finger. Come here. Lu Huaiqiu was momentarily stunned but obediently leaned forward. If others saw this scene, they would probably be shocked. The sole heir of the prestigious Lu family, a wealthy young master, was being completely submissive in front of a woman, even showing a pleasing expression. As I met his puzzled gaze, I whispered in his ear, just respect me from now on. Lu Huaiqiu's body shook violently, and he stared at me in shock as a blush crept over his cheeks. You agree to be with me. His voice was distorted with excitement, and his eyes were bloodshot. I smiled and brushed the hair from my forehead. I didn't say that yet. Let's see how you do. He didn't say anything but hugged me tightly. Thank you, I smiled back, extending my arms. And thank you for not despising me. A week later, I was discharged from the hospital, leaving with Lu Huaiqiu by my side. Unexpectedly, at the entrance, we ran into Chen Yuechuan coming our way. I glanced briefly at Chen Miu, who was clinging intimately to him, and quickly looked away. Only then did Chen Yuechuan notice me, his face stiffening as he instinctively tried to pull Chen Miu away from him, but she clung tightly to his arm, refusing to let go. Shinjuxin, I came to see you. I looked straight ahead, ignoring him. I can't afford the concern of the young master of the Chen family. Hearing my sarcastic tone, Chen Yuechuan frowned. are you still mad at me? I smiled. How dare I, sir, especially since you are about to be a father. If I'm not mistaken, you must be here for her checkup, I said, glancing at Chen Mu's stomach. At these words, Chen Yuechuan's face changed drastically, and he stared at me. You know. I didn't respond but turned to Lu Huiqiu. Let's go. Wait. Chen Yuechuan panicked, pushing Lu Huiqiu aside. Don't touch my wife. Then he looked at Chen Mu. You go inside first. I have something to handle. I'll join you in a bit. I don't want to. Chen Mu pouted, shaking her head dissatisfiedly. Why bother talking to this old woman? Now she knows. So what? My baby is a million times better than hers. Chen Yuechuan's expression turned cold, and he snapped. I told you to go back. Can't you understand? Startled, Chen Mu could only purse her lips and walk inside with a look of resentment. Shen Zhuxin, Chen Yuechuan quickly walked over, blocking my way. Listen to me. I was momentarily blinded by folly. That's why I made a mistake, but I made her take medicine right away. Who knew she didn't take it? His face full of agony. Only the child in your stomach is truly mine. Chen Yuechuan's. I don't care about the others. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. I don't care. So why did you rush to the hospital 3 times in just 1 week? Chen Yuechuan's face turned sour, his expression drooping as he struggled to explain himself. Enough. Don't come looking for me anymore. Just go and live a good life with your little sister and lover. I waved my hand dismissively and walked away again. As we brushed past each other, Chen Yuechuan suddenly growled, Shen Zhuxin, even if you really don't love me anymore, at least care about your mother. She's getting old and it's hard for her to get around. I stiffened and turned to glare at Chen Yuechuan angrily. In my past life, he used my mother to blackmail me, making it impossible for me to leave, and now, he was trying to use the same tactic. Chen Yuechuan's expression calmed as he gently lifted my chin. Come back to me, will you? This time, I'll treat you right, treat our child right. A few seconds later, I smiled sweetly. Okay, I agree. Hearing this, Chen Yuechuan looked triumphantly at Lu Huiqiu and said, You've lost again this time. Lu Huiqiu just shook his head with a smile, not saying a word, and quietly stepped back to leave. Of course, he wasn't upset because we had already arranged for someone to take my mother away. Chen Yuechuan smiled slightly and extended his hand. Let's go. Obediently, I took his hand. I'll listen to you. And so, I returned to the Chen family once again. This time was different, officially. Chen Mu was still the lady of the house, and I was merely relegated to a secluded side room, cut off from the world. He always bent down to cradle my face, gently saying, Just wait a little longer, it will all be over soon, and my behavior increasingly pleased him. No complaints, no fuss, as if I truly had returned to his side, but I knew this was just the beginning. Some were more impatient than I. Finally, after another one of Chen Yuechuan's visits, Chen Mu kicked the door open. Oh. The old woman is really delighting in secret here. Chen Mu crossed her arms and looked at me with a mocking expression. How does it feel to be the other woman? What do you think? If I call the reporters over now, would Chen Yuechuan kick you out to save the family's face? I frowned and looked at Chen Mu coldly. Viper-hearted describes you perfectly. Chen Mu covered her mouth and giggled. Thank you for the compliment, but this should be our last meeting. You can't beat me. Old woman, as her words fell, suddenly the roaring sounds of many cars approached. Before I could get up, numerous reporters burst through the door, swarming inside. Miss, someone claims you are the young master of the Chen family's mistress. Is this true? Why did you choose to be the other woman after the young master of the Chen family's wedding? Does your conscience not hurt? I remained calm, watching everything unfold with a detached gaze. I didn't respond to any of the questions. It was clear that all of this was meticulously orchestrated by Chen Mush. Whatever I said would be pointless. Within 5 minutes, Chen Yuechuan hurried over, his face shadowed with an uncontrollable gloom. Good day, young Master Chen, may I ask? Immediately, all the reporters shifted their focus and swarmed around Chen Yuechuan, blocking his path. Facing the barrage of questions from the reporters, Chen Yuechuan took a deep breath, his eyes briefly showing a hint of guilt towards me before it vanished. Ladies and gentlemen, it's true that this house is owned by the Chen family, but this woman trespassed on her own. She has never been my wife, he declared, with a slight smile. He put his arm around the slender waist of Chen Mush. This lady, however, is my wife, the sole mistress of the Chen family. As soon as he finished speaking, The reporters erupted in gasps and envious looks. Chen Mush glanced over with a triumphant look, prompting a reporter to thrust a microphone towards me. "Miss, is there anything you would like to say?" I slightly curved my lips, wearing a mocking smile. "Chen Yuechuan, I've seen right through you." With those words, I picked up my belongings which I had already packed and walked away, watching my retreating figure. Chen Yuechuan's face turned pale, but faced with the reporter's cameras, he could only muster a forced smile. For the sake of the Chen family, that was all he could do. "Is everything ready?" I placed my backpack in the trunk and asked softly. Behind the wheel, Lu Weiqiu took off his sunglasses, revealing a refreshing smile. "Don't worry, everything is set." I smiled slightly and pulled out the plane ticket to Australia. "In that case, let's set off for our new life. How did you think of all this on the road?" Lu Weiqiu couldn't help but ask curiously. I shook my head and smiled, because I knew Chen Yuechuan wouldn't let me go, and I was even more certain that Chen Mush wouldn't just watch me take what belongs to her. It all boils down to desire. "Oh, by the way, not many people know about this departure, right?" Lu Huichou nodded. "Don't worry, I left very discreetly. Nobody will know where we went. As for the person who faked your death, I've made sure everything will go smoothly." I nodded slightly, gazing ahead somewhat abstractedly. If I didn't torment him this way, how could I compensate for the suffering I endured in my past life? Lu Huichou paused. "What did you say?" "Nothing," I smiled, offering no explanation. The past life felt like a dream, and given a chance to choose again by fate, I wouldn't make the same mistakes. It's likely that Chen Yuechuan has also seen the miscarriage report by now. The next morning, every media outlet featured videos of the Chen family heir going mad. He used all his connections to search for me globally, only to find my gruesomely disfigured body in the ruins. He even knelt at the doorstep of the house I once lived in, continuously bowing in apology. Chen Mush was also forced by him to kneel from dawn until dusk. When Chen Yuechuan's parents tried to take Chen Mush away, he stabbed them severely, and they were admitted into the ICU. 3 days later, Chen Mush, driven mad by torture, smashed her head against a rock and died instantly. Chen Yuechuan was sentenced to life imprisonment for intentional homicide, doomed to spend his life behind bars. Seeing the news, I just smiled faintly, unconcerned. From now on, I must put myself first. Story 2. After my tragic death, my utterly despised son risked his life to avenge me. My husband, who had lived a carefree life indulging in pleasures, succeeded in bringing down the rival corporation. He then committed suicide while clutching my urn, my spirit, floating in the air. Spun in disbelief, when I opened my eyes again, I found myself scolding my son for only achieving second place in his grade, while simultaneously smashing my husband's collection of luxury watches. Me, let's pause the malevolent act. I need to switch roles. The floor was littered with broken watch faces and torn exam papers. With the trembling butler and servants standing by, I silently placed the last watch back in its place, changing my grip on my son from a pinch to a gentle stroke. Jiang Qizhao took a step back, avoiding my hand. His delicate yet youthful face showed a hint of coldness. He stooped to pick up pieces of the torn exam paper, clutching them in his hand before silently turning to leave. I stared at his retreating figure for a few seconds, then raised my voice. "Jiang Qizhao." He paused on the steps but did not turn around. "There's a parent-teacher meeting tomorrow, right? I happen to be free. I'll attend." I said. "No need." Jiang Qizhao refused without hesitation and continued upstairs. The words stuck in my throat, and I sighed internally, scanning the chaotic scene before ordering someone to clean it up. Then, I made a phone call. After a long wait, the call was answered leisurely, with a noisy background. "What is it?" The man's voice was casual, with a playful lilt, humming a tune, epitomizing a carefree playboy. Yet, it was he who, after my death, abandoned all his amusements and insanely drove my stepmother's family corporation to bankruptcy and ruin. My thoughts drifted back to the scene I witnessed as a mere spirit. My typically flirtatious and lazy husband, Jiang Ji, had red-rimmed eyes and bloodless lips. Devoid of his usual frivolity, he decisively made everyone who had wronged me pay a painful price. I could understand these actions. After all, no matter how strained our relationships were, I was still the lady of the Jiang family, representing their honor. But there was really no need for Jiang Ji to die for me. After avenging me, he stood by the seaside where we had our wedding, holding my urn. He stood there for hours as the wind erased his usual dignified demeanor, leaving him desolate. At that moment, my spirit floated nearby, scoffing, thinking, now he finally shows some conscience after his days of drinking and flirting. Then, under my astonished gaze, he walked step by step into the deep sea with my urn in his arms, without looking back, lonely and resolute, until the waves surged and swallowed him, leaving no trace behind. Only my trembling spirit remained. This foolishly sentimental president, polluting the waters, would surely look horrendous when his body surfaced. By the quiet seaside at night, my lonely spirit seemed trapped in place, feeling as if a salty, damp breeze had swept over, disheveling my hair and unsettling my heart. Upon opening my eyes again, I was back to the time when I reigned supreme in the Jiang household. I clutched my phone, pressing it to my ear, listening to Jiang Ji's indifferent voice. Do you want money, or what? I pursed my lips. I smashed your watches. Jiang Ji just acknowledged with an O. Seemingly unconcerned. Okay, then I'll hang up. Before he could hang up, I quickly blurted out, where are you? On the other end, there was a pause, and after a moment, all the background noise and music ceased, leaving a silence so deep that one could hear a pin drop. Why, are you thinking of getting a divorce? Zhang's initially lazy tone suddenly turned chilly. If you get divorced, where will you go? Back to the Ji family. Do you think they'll treat you well? Did you have another fight with A Zhao? Don't forget, you still have my investment in your studio. Darling, shut up now. And I can pretend I didn't hear anything. I was quite shocked as Jiang rattled off this string of remarks. I really didn't know how he could jump from my asking his location to talking about divorce, but I knew he was always like this. Beneath his privileged exterior was a condescending indifference. He could speak touching love words emotionlessly with his affectionate peach blossom eyes, and just as easily discard past lovers, playing through the human world, passing unscathed even amidst a cluster of flowers. And I've never been one to have a good temper. As others in our circle would put it, I'm a domineering tigress, wreaking havoc. Especially after I fell ill, I became even more of a torment. Otherwise, I wouldn't have caused such unrest in the Jiang family in my previous life. My good temper just now was due to being moved by their actions after my death, which made me want to start over and treat them more gently this time around, but it seemed that no one appreciated that. Fine, let's divorce now. Take your son and get out, I said with a cold laugh, intentionally being contradictory. As soon as the words left my mouth, I locked eyes with Jiang Qizhao, who was coming downstairs with books in hand. His dark eyes betrayed no emotion. He looks half like his father and half like me, but his personality resembles neither of us. I wanted to see their reaction to the mention of divorce. 3. Do you want to divorce? Jiang Qizhao stood not far from me, his tone calm. He seemed mature for his age, but children who grow up without parental love do tend to mature earlier. I watched for any change in Jiang Qizhao's expression, subtly raising an eyebrow. Your father doesn't love me. And your affection for me is even less than that for your tutor. What reason do I have to stay with the Jiang family? No, his expression didn't change much, but his words hesitated for a moment. After a long pause, Jiang Qizhao spoke softly. My dad won't agree. That's not up to him, I replied. The living room fell silent for a while. Is this because I won't let you attend the parent-teacher conference, so you want a divorce? Jiang Qizhao suddenly said. I was stunned. Like father, like son, both have such peculiar ways of thinking. Jiang Qizhao looked down, as if making up his mind. You can attend if you want. Me? I suddenly understood why Jiang Qizhao reacted this way. He probably thought I would embarrass him at the parent-teacher conference and didn't really want me to attend, but he wanted even less for me to divorce Jiang Ji. My heart sank. Mom just wants to know how you're doing in school lately. After a long silence, I softened my voice, taking a step towards Jiang Qizhao. His lips parted, as if he wanted to say something, but just then, the villa's main door opened. Jiang Qizhao and I turned to look as Jiang Ji's tall figure stood framed against the backlight. As Jiang Ji walked in from the doorway, the kiss marks on his neck became increasingly visible. The atmosphere in the villa dropped further. Jiang Qizhao stared at Jiang Ji's neck for several seconds before walking past him without even a word of greeting. Heading straight outside, I instructed the butler to have someone follow him closely. The butler smiled and said, It's actually time for the young master's tutoring session, and the driver is already waiting at the door. I paused for a moment, nodded, and retracted my worries. When Jiang Ji's gaze met mine, he lightly lifted his index finger, and everyone else in the villa left, disappearing from view. Where did you get the courage to think about divorce? Jiang Ji loosened his collar, his casual demeanor seeming like an offhand question. I couldn't help but fix my gaze firmly on him. It was inquisitive, questioning, and also strange. Despite being such a cynical person, why would he, after my death? Jiangji lazily leaned back on the sofa, arms crossed as he surveyed me, his tone still frivolous. Darling, remember, the banquet is tomorrow night. The banquet tomorrow night would be attended by all the prominent families of Haicheng, including my own family. My family found it odd. They hoped I could firmly tie Jiangji to our family yet didn't wish for my happiness. You have enough darlings outside. No need to waste your breath calling me darling. I smiled, not taking his bait, and sat down beside him. My words were a casual probe. When my soul aimlessly wandered after my death, I saw many scenes I had never witnessed before. For instance, the numerous lovers around Jiangji seemed to hint at some hidden truths. But the real truth still needed to be uncovered by me. Jiangji's expression flickered unnaturally for a moment. He glanced at me, and the smile at the corner of his mouth slightly faded. Are you jealous? He sounded self-mocking, almost sarcastic, his fingertips lightly tapping on his thigh. I casually placed my hand on his thigh too. The man beside me immediately stiffened. Jiangji, husband. I provocatively curled my lips, even though the home flower isn't as fragrant as the wild ones, but... Jiangji almost scrambled to his feet. He took a deep breath and looked down at me. Jiji, have you lost your mind? Jiangji's ears turned red, but how could someone so seasoned in the ways of love be so easily embarrassed? I smirked, continuously speaking without pause. The kids are already so big, what's wrong with touching you a bit? Are you too precious to be touched? We're not even divorced yet. Is it illegal for a wife to touch her husband? The air was thick with tension. In my previous life, I always spoke in this tone at the Jiang family. Only this time, there was a hint of teasing involved. Chastity is the best dowry a man can have. In my last life, I always felt disgusted by Jiangji's infidelities, naturally showing him no kindness, and even less desire to be close to him. But now, it seems the previous intelligence was slightly off, thus, my attitude could afford some adjustment. Jiangji repeated, "You've gone mad." Now not only were his ears red, but his neck also had a slight pink tinge. Just when I thought Jiangji would storm off in embarrassment, the butler hurried over, holding a phone. "Mr. Jiang, madam, there's been an incident with the young master." I furrowed my brow, exchanged a glance with Jiangji, and then we both decided to head to the school together. Once in the car, Jiangji spoke on the phone with his secretary. Found out the reason. I looked out the window at the swiftly passing scenery while listening to Jiangji's indifferent and off-key words. Hitting someone. Just because I've donated a few buildings to the school they start showing off. TSK, making such a fuss. I grimaced as the corner of my mouth twitched sharply. The comment was practically pointing directly at me, yet, Jiang Qizhao was eerily mature and calm, lacking the innocent demeanor typical of other 8-year-olds. I wanted to retort but held back. I was puzzled about what could have provoked Jiang Qizhao to hit someone. The mother of the child who was hit viciously grabbed Jiang Qizhao's ear and swung him towards me. "Didn't your parents teach you anything? You're so young and already fighting." After she spoke, she seemed unsatisfied and slapped Jiang Qizhao across the face, the sound crisp and clear. I had just stepped into the principal's office when I witnessed this scene and heard her words. The next second, our eyes met. Then, in another second, I strode forward and swiftly slapped her twice. She was so shocked that she forgot to retaliate. If it's Jiang Qizhao's fault, we'll find a way to apologize and resolve the issue, but regardless, as an adult, you shouldn't be hitting a child directly." I spoke without hesitation, ignoring the astonished looks from the principal and teachers in the office. Moreover, from what I had just overheard in Jiang Qizhao's phone conversation, it was the other child who had insulted him first. Jiang Qizhao stood in front of the woman as she tried to retaliate, coldly calling out, "Jiang Qizhao." Jiang Qizhao's lips were tightly sealed, and after a long while, he said, "He told me my parents never attend parent-teacher meetings because my dad has a new wife and my mom is crazy. He also said that those who are good at math don't live long, and I might die in middle school. Then my whole family would die. My dad would be stabbed to death by his mistress, and my mom would die from eating rat poison." Me, Jiang Qizhao. I met the gaze of the child hiding in the corner, expressionless. I clenched my fist and took a step forward, but other teachers quickly held me back. Calm down, calm down." Perhaps my expression was too frightening, causing the child to burst into tears, and his mother exclaimed in fear, Didn't you say you shouldn't take your anger out on a child? Damn your foul mouth. You're the one without parents. I glared fiercely at the child, my anger reaching its peak. The child's crying grew louder. In the ensuing chaos, I saw Jiang Qizhao making a serious phone call, seemingly busy with something else even at this time. Just as I was about to scold him too, he slightly curled his lip, first glancing at Jiang Qizhao then at me, saying, I've contacted someone to demolish the newly constructed buildings. Me. Jiang Qizhao. The conversation was still nonsensical. It was hopeless, the principal, trying to lighten the mood yet clearly not believing it, since it was impossible for newly constructed buildings to be demolished. Mr. Jiang, please don't be angry, I think both parties are at fault here. After all, Qizhao started the fight. The preparation for the new cafeteria is halted, Jiang said calmly, dropping the last sentence. The principal, who was just playing dumb, suddenly widened his eyes, jumped up from his chair, and rushed to the child. This is corrupting the school's atmosphere. Expelled, expelled. The child's mother stood agape, incredulous. My child is so young, and you're stooping to his level. Besides, my child didn't hit anyone, he just said a few words. The principal's office was noisy and chaotic. Amid the noise, Jiang Qizhao seemed detached, his hands casually in his pockets, his back straight, his smile faint. I couldn't understand him. My gaze moved from him down to Jiang Qizhao. He just quietly watched me. His thick eyelashes fluttering, his pupils dark but no longer empty. After a while, I lifted my lips slightly, smiling at him. Jiang Qizhao didn't smile, he just kept looking at me, his delicate little face marked with a red handprint. Zhao, I called softly. He froze. This was his nickname, the one I used when he was very young. Back then, I wasn't yet malicious or sinful. Zhao, I called out again. The overlapping sounds of a child's crying, his mother's curses and breakdown. The teacher's attempts to mediate, and the principal's anger filled the small office, almost to the point of explosion. Yet, for some reason, I clearly heard Jiang Qizhao's faint response. After returning home, I sat in front of the dressing table, staring at a row of psychiatric medications for a long time. Then, I pushed all of them into the trash can. Hearing a slight noise, I turned my head. Jiang Qizhao stood at the door. He was still too young to be smoking, not very tall, holding a glass of milk, quietly watching me. He didn't speak, and as usual, Jiang Ji wasn't coming home tonight. The silence in the villa was eerie. I sighed and opened my arms to Jiang Qizhao. Do you want a hug from Mom? He looked at me for a long while, then finally walked over, placed the milk on the table, and without a word, turned and left. Just then, my phone screen lit up. Looking down, it was a video of Jiang Ji in a bar, surrounded by bright lights and festivities. In the video, his laughter was captivating, the center of attention. My informant sent me a message. Are you interested in him? Although he's rich, his family keeps tight reins on him. You might not get a chance with him. There are plenty of handsome guys here. We even have male models. Why don't you come over? I can introduce you to some good ones. I replied. I heard he's quite the playboy, and I'm pretty good looking myself. Why couldn't something happen? The informant replied. Just on the surface. Those few words were brief but loaded with information. After that statement from the bar manager, no matter how much I pressed, he refused to disclose more. As per our agreement, I transferred the final payment and wrote, I'll be there soon, find some good-looking male models. Big sister, try this. A brother playfully fed me a grape, surrounded by other male models who were also whispering sweet nothings. I bit into the grape, its sweetness bursting in my mouth, counting down in my mind. 3, 2, 1. I looked up, locking eyes with Jiang Ji, who walked out from a second-floor VIP box, his peach blossom eyes slightly cool. He was followed by a laughing group. Upon seeing me, their expressions changed instantly, and the noise around them quieted. One of the male models next to me leaned close, whispering sweet nothings in my ear. I kept my gaze on Jiang Ji, even waving at him with a smile. Jiang Ji strode over with long steps, stopping in front of me. Ji. His smile was faint, his voice even fainter. Hi, hubby, I casually said. At that, the male models around me immediately showed shocked expressions, stumbling over their words. Mr. Jiang, Mrs. Jiang. Jiang Ji was a major shareholder of the bar and a frequent visitor, almost universally recognized there. I stood up, straightening his collar. Husband, what a coincidence to run into you here. What are you doing following me here? Seeing my nonchalant attitude, Zhang's slender fingers gripped my wrist tightly. I chuckled lightly. Isn't it obvious? Just teasing you. Are you really considering a divorce? Jiang looked down at me, his eyes questioning. What, huh? How did we end up on the topic of divorce again? What is he thinking? But I decided to go along with it. You don't love me, and neither does our son. I might as well set you both free sooner rather than later. As I spoke, I held Jiang tightly, watching his expression closely. He paused for a moment. Do you need me to love you? His tone was very calm like a stagnant pond. Gone was his usual cynicism and frivolity. I suddenly realized that in fact, Jiang was still like his old self. Showing another side of him, the Jiang before me now, gave me the feeling of the time he stood by the seaside holding my urn in his previous life, a calmness that bordered on utter despair. Looking into his amber eyes, I said earnestly, pausing at each word, I do. After that, without waiting for his response, I yanked his hand and pulled him outside. The bar manager watched us, dumbfounded. As we walked, I called back to the manager, charge all my expenses to Mr. Zhang's account. Jiang let me lead him without resisting. I dragged him to my car and pushed him in. Sitting on his lap, I fiercely grabbed his chin. I hate dishonest men. Tell me, have you touched anyone else? Jiang looked stunned. Silence filled the car for a long time, the air thick with the lingering smell of smoke and alcohol from us. It wasn't pleasant. I lowered my eyelids, let go of him, and rolled down the car window. No, he said. Then why do you frequent bars and let rumors spread? I seized the opportunity to press him. It's none of your business. He slightly lifted his chin, his gaze on me, but his emotions were indiscernible. I grabbed his neck with both hands and bit his lower lip hard. I am your spouse. Do you know what that means? Zhang's lips were tight, and he remained silent. I laughed out of frustration. You don't know, do you? Then let's get a divorce. After tomorrow, I will have someone draft the divorce papers. Surprisingly, he agreed to the divorce. After he spoke, I froze. Although my mind was a mess, my pride made me respond. Fine. I got off his lap, but his slender fingers instinctively gripped the root of my thigh. I didn't move. He let go and said, I'll call the driver. When I returned home, the medicine I had thrown into the trash from my makeup table was replaced with new ones, neatly arranged on the table. Jiang stood at the doorway, his silhouette shadowed. Holding a book, he paused, then said, The doctor said you can't skip your medication. I was momentarily dazed. In my past life, my bipolar disorder was severe. I couldn't skip medication for that hatred. Some feelings developed. Jiang Qijiao was conceived under those circumstances. My family feared that if I had a son, my status in the Jiang family would rise significantly. My brother and sister would often whisper in my ear about Jiang Ji's frivolity and infidelity. I didn't believe them, but later, the Ji family secretly drugged me with psychotropic substances, turning me from a normal person into someone with a mental illness, irritable and prone to anger, yet also fearful and depressed. It was only after I died and followed Jiang Ji as a spirit that I saw him avenge me and watched him change into someone unrecognizable. The next day, the banquet arrived as scheduled. I wore an ivory mermaid dress, arm in arm with Jiang Ji, under the watchful eyes of the other guests in the hall. Sister, a cheerful voice called out as Ji Rulin approached me in her little heels. When we were face to face, she smiled at Jiang Ji. Brother-in-law, I smiled back and asked her, How are mom and brother? Mom wasn't feeling well, so she didn't come. She's at home taking care of dad, Ji Rulin answered, avoiding mentioning Ji Hao, because I knew that Ji Hao was currently scheming to embarrass me at this banquet, aiming to ruin my reputation. At the critical moment, Ji Rulin would step forward to attract Jiang Ji's attention, even though everyone knew that Jiang Ji and I had a rocky marriage. They were also aware that my mental state had been significantly manipulated by their design, yet, they still wouldn't let me be. They coveted the position of Mrs. Jiang, aiming to elevate Ji Rulin. I unconsciously tightened my grip on Jiang Ji's arm. Jiang Ji glanced down at me and after a long moment, he looked away and nodded slightly at Ji Rulin. Ji Rulin's smile grew even brighter. She eagerly said to me, Even though mom didn't come, she prepared a beautiful dress for you. You always say mom doesn't love you, but she really cares about you. Let me take you to the dressing room to try it on. I looked at Ji Rulin and sneered inwardly. Do you think there's something wrong with my taste? Jiang Ji said, lowering his gaze. The tone wasn't forceful, yet it made one's skin crawl. Ji Rulin's expression froze. What? I smiled and said, This mermaid dress I'm wearing. He helped me choose it. Ji Rulin's eyes widened. Aren't you too? She realized her comment was inappropriate and quickly shifted her words. but that was prepared by your mother, right, right, I cheerfully agreed, pulling my arm out of Jeongji's embrace, only to have him grasp it again. His dark eyes locked onto me without blinking. I met his gaze. After a moment, I chuckled lightly, honey. Wait till I change into a new gown for you to see. The air went silent for 2 seconds before he released my hand. I followed Ji Rulin upstairs where she opened a lounge room and walked in, first handing me a glass of water, then opening a wardrobe, a white lawn dress. I stood there, my eyes fixated on the white dress. It was identical to the one my mother wore when she committed suicide. My stepmother moved in 3 years after my mother's death, when I was only 7. I don't remember much from my childhood, but the most vivid memory was waking up from a nap to find my mother lying silently beside me. She wore a pristine white dress and half a bottle of sleeping pills lay empty on the bedside table. She left no suicide note, and her behavior had been normal before her death. But every night after finishing a bedtime story, she would always add one line, Zizi, mommy will always love you. So there was this layer too, in my previous life. The Ji family also plotted against me at this banquet by sending just an ordinary dress. It must be that things have been too calm at the Zhongs these days, and my stepmother couldn't keep her composure and wanted to stir up some disgust in me. Ji Rulin's words interrupted my whirlwind of thoughts, her eyes smiling. Do you like it? This dress is quite expensive. This was the dress my father had given to my mother on the day he proposed to her. I reached out and clenched the white dress. Why don't you try it on here, and I'll wait outside, she said, her steps light as she went out, thoughtfully closing the door behind her. I carefully felt the soft fabric of the dress in my hands. 10 seconds later, I closed the wardrobe and pushed open the decorative door designed to be hidden. This was something I had instructed to be made right after I came back to life, aligning with the timeline. The space behind the secret door was brightly lit, and as I stepped in, I could hear Ji Rulin humming happily through another door. I too smiled. Not until I had completely passed through the secret door and entered the hidden space did I see an unexpected person, Jeongji. He was dressed in a tailored silver-gray suit, lazily leaning on the sofa, his fingertips tapping sporadically on his thigh. He lifted his eyelids, saw me, and showed no surprise. Jeongji. I really didn't expect to see him here. How did he know I had a secret door built here? In my previous life, I fell into their trap and was later saved by Jeongji, but this life, I had already thought ahead and wouldn't fall into the same trap again, so how could he still know? However, Jeongji clearly didn't intend to explain. I pursed my lips, not calling me husband anymore, Jeongji teased. I choked a bit, then sat down on my own. A few minutes later, noises came from the room I was originally in. A gentle male voice faintly asked, Xiaoji, are you alright? Hearing this insincere voice made me feel sick. I took a deep breath, but then Jeongji grabbed my wrist and pulled me into his arms. I stiffened. What are you do? Before I could finish, his cool, dry palm covered my mouth. Lies. A warm breath grazed the back of my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. Next door, Ji Hao's voice changed from initial concern and confusion to cursing loudly. I forced myself to ignore Jeongji's actions and took out my phone to send a message to Ji Rulin from my other account. They can go in now. Ji Rulin immediately replied, okay, you'll get your money after this is done. The previous messages were from her, saying she was afraid of being exposed standing by the door for too long and had left, asking me to monitor the room in her place. What she didn't know was that the owner of this trusted account was the very person she was desperately trying to harm. She also didn't realize that her beloved brother had already taken my place, locked up in the room. After sending the message, I turned around. Jeongji was standing close to me, calmly observing me. There was no surprise or confusion in his expression. After a minute of silence, the sounds of doors opening and closing came from next door, followed by Ji Hao's cursing and screaming, and the panting of other men. The hunter becomes the hunted. Ji Hao had brought 3 men, hoping to ruin me, but now it was his turn to taste his own medicine. Feeling slightly better, I pinched Jeongji's earlobe and whispered, honey, the show has started. Jeongji steadied me by the waist, remembering that after today, we were supposed to sign the divorce papers tomorrow. I chuckled. After tomorrow, you might not see such an exciting show again, and you won't be my husband anymore. The hand around my waist tightened for a moment, causing me to groan in discomfort. He seemed to realize this and loosened his grip. The noise next door was harsh and unpleasant. I straightened my skirt, preparing to leave this hidden space. Jeongji followed behind me, I naturally stopped and took his hand. Jiangji let me lead him. Somehow, I had a premonition that this marriage might not end, but there wasn't time to ponder this now. Because after Jiangji and I left the hidden space and took a detour back to that sinful room, we found a crowd had already gathered outside, including reporters with cameras. Ji Rulin's eyes were red as she accused, "Sister, there's more than one man in this room, isn't there? How could you do this to your husband?" The crowd murmured in surprise. The so-called stepmother, who was supposed to be taking care of our father at home, stood aside in her elegant attire, touching the bracelet on her wrist. This shameful slut, Gigi, just like her mother. As soon as she finished speaking, I stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face, twice, without holding back. Everyone stared at me in disbelief, especially Ji Rulin, who widened her eyes in shock. Seeing Jiangji standing on the other side, her face gradually turned pale. Just then, the staff member Ji Rulin had called with the keys arrived, and the door to the room was opened. A foul stench filled the air as four entangled men were revealed. The stepmother, seeing the face of the man at the bottom, tortured beyond recognition, threw herself towards him without regard for her image, screaming, Howard. I patted Ji Rulin's shoulder mockingly. "Didn't you recognize your brother's voice?" Ji Rulin's cheeks flushed with anger as she raised her hand to slap me, but Jiangji intercepted it mid-air. Ji Rulin trembled, tears swirling in her eyes. "You ruined my brother." "Don't rush to defend him," I said with a slight smile. "I've already reported your academic plagiarism and falsified lab results." And the arrival of the police interrupted Ji Rulin's panicked curses. As Ji Rulin was handcuffed, she struggled and screamed, "You and Ji Hum misappropriated company funds for personal use, cooked the books, and made the accountant take the fall. Did you really think you were flawless?" The stepmother shook her head in disbelief. I shrugged. "Your good days are over too. Both your children are locked away. Did you really expect my half-vegetative father to take care of you? Moreover, Jiang has been targeting the Ji family for a while now. They're desperate and out of options. Otherwise they wouldn't have come up with such a cruel and dramatic plan." I sighed softly. "Prepare to face hell for the rest of your lives. The Ji family is on the brink of bankruptcy, burdened with so much debt and enemies." The stepmother collapsed to the ground. "No, it can't be." I glanced at her expressionlessly and turned to leave. I knew Jiang was following me. When we were alone, I turned around. "I'm waiting for your divorce papers." Jiang smiled casually. He stepped closer, lowered his head, and his cool lips touched mine. I didn't resist, until my head spun a bit and I felt dizzy. "Wait, you." As my consciousness slowly returned, I struggled to open my eyes, letting the dim light flood into them. I felt utterly drained. When I fully came to, I saw that my hands and feet were shackled by chains. I moved slightly, and the crisp sound of metal clashing was particularly loud and harsh in the room. The door opened, and Jiang stood there, holding a bowl of porridge, looking down at me from above. I smiled, not questioning my predicament, but hinted, "Where's the divorce agreement? Don't think about leaving me." Jiang didn't answer directly, his lips curving slightly. My smile faded, and our eyes met. I had a sixth sense that he had regained his memories from a past life. "You must be crazy," I said. He walked over, placed the porridge by the bed, and didn't argue. You want a divorce, but I won't agree," I hummed, my eyes narrowing playfully. "So, you're playing a captivity game with me." Jiang didn't expect such a comment from me, his expression unchanging. "Don't think this will make me let my guard down." "Oh, what about our son?" "I will make sure he is well cared for." Perhaps this was the real Jiang. Underneath his lazy demeanor was a calm yet fanatic obsession. How had I not realized this in my previous life? I glanced at the porridge and then at him. "Well, you might as well feed me. I'm starving." Jiang ignored me. His cool fingertips touched my cheek, then slowly traced down to my collarbone. "Gigi." He sighed softly. "Yeah." I responded and locked eyes with him. His gaze as deep as the ocean yet as distant as the stars. "You'll never get rid of me." His voice was husky. "I can't get rid of you." I scoffed lightly. "It's you who can't leave me, right?" Jiang paused, his fingertips still. I leaned forward, arms wrapping around his neck, moving closer. "Some people die and their spouses follow them in death." Our eyes met, just for a second. He looked away. He knew I had been reborn, and I knew he had too, but Jiang hadn't expected me to lift this veil of haze. "Having been reborn, shouldn't you have let go and set me free?" I narrowed my eyes, puzzled, shaking the chains on my wrists. "After you died, I always regretted it," he said, eyes downcast, his fingertip pressing on the chain on my wrist. "I should have confined you from the start. Was the agreement to divorce the day before yesterday just part of your plan to lock me away? I asked. Jiang didn't answer directly, his gaze lowered, letting me hold on to his neck. His tone was calm, devoid of his usual frivolity. He said, "My birthday wish is to create a golden cage worthy of you, to keep you inside." It was an abrupt statement, but I understood it all too well. The first year after the birth of Jiang Qizhao, the year my relationship with Jiang completely deteriorated, the Jiang family was in constant turmoil because of me. Yet, on Jiang's birthday, I maintained basic decency. I gave him a piece of jade, indeed expensive but shaped more like a tombstone. If I were to use the servant's interpretation, it would be, Madame Jiang used this jade tombstone to commemorate her dead love with President Jiang. I can't remember exactly what I was thinking at the time, but I do remember casually asking Jiang, "Did you make a wish?" Hopefully, it wasn't for me to disappear. It was quite a provocative statement. Jiang half closed his peach blossom eyes, and upon reopening them, he just looked deeply at me, saying nothing, feeling foolish. I left Jiang with the birthday cake that had only had its candles blown out and went upstairs alone. So that was his wish back then. I poked Jiang's cheek and chuckled. "Congratulations, you got your wish." Perhaps, Jiang and I could never truly escape each other. After all, in my previous life after I died, my ashes still ended up in Jiang's embrace. But this time, it wasn't my ashes in his embrace, but the very real me. Side story 1. I've always felt that although Jiang always talks about keeping me locked up, it was always him who was trapped. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but I find it quite exhilarating. Then the divorce just fizzled out, and I regained my freedom. I was lounging on the bed with my legs crossed, happily binge-watching TV dramas. Jiang pushed the door open, his gaze landing on me. He walked in and covered me with a blanket, shocked. I threw the blanket off. "Not seducing me, what's with this attitude?" Jiang curved his lips, his gaze sweeping over my body from top to bottom. "Clothed or not, I still want." I covered his mouth, flipped over and pushed him down on the bed. "Jiang, wait, 2. Jiang and I had hardly ever fulfilled our responsibilities as parents, but one day we suddenly felt a pang of conscience. Jiang and I each held one of Jiang Qizhao's homework assignments. All three of us were somewhat silent. After a long inspection, we couldn't find a single error. Jiang Qizhao's handwriting was beautiful, and his problem-solving was clear. I touched my chin and honestly said, I was already failing math in 3rd grade. Jiang grandly handed Jiang Qizhao a black gold card. "Buy whatever you want." Jiang Qizhao, "Me, he's only 8, what can he buy?" Just as I was about to criticize Jiang, Jiang Qizhao took the card, walked over to me, and handed it to me. I looked at Jiang Qizhao. Jiang raised his eyebrows. Jiang Qizhao pursed his lips. "Mom, buy a bag." I was stunned. "That kid," Jiang chuckled. I looked at the family portrait on the table, Jiang Qizhao's neat homework on the left, the new watch I gave to Jiang on the right, and felt somewhat dazed. In my previous life, I thought happiness was hard to come by. This life, I've discovered, happiness is actually quite simple.